Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Passport to the Paranormal. Hello, Joe. Great to see you again.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hello.
Looking
Good,
lovely as
good.
ever.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And you're looking as gray as ever. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
For the people
I'm
who are
getting
watching,
old.
that joke just comes from him mentioning that he's turning gray earlier. So
I
I kind of
am. I didn't notice it until I'm looking at myself in the camera. I'm like, oh my goodness. I got to get
and
some bleaching formula for men or something. Brush it in.
yeah.
Or some
That's
shoe
why I dye
polish.
my hair every couple weeks.
Well, my wife won't let me. She said it makes me look distinguished, whatever that means. But I guess women do that more than men, I guess, dye their hair.
Yeah.
Well, at least I still have some hair anyway.
I know. Josh was doing something. This was like months ago. He was on the floor doing something, fixing something or whatever. I don't even remember. And I looked down at his head. I'm like, holy crap, you're turning gray.
And he's a young man.
Yeah, he's just turned 40.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm almost old enough to be his father. That's scary.
Yeah, it is.
It's scary. We won't talk about that.
No. No. Although I do have to say, I get a lot of high fives when people find out he's 11 years younger than I am.
Well, you're a cougar.
I know. But anyway, you guys know we're here to talk about the paranormal, and some amazing, exciting things are happening. I'm just going to get on my little soapbox for a minute here. I got word from my publisher that Haunted Florida Roadside Attractions will be out August 5th, and then Ghosts and Legends of the Florida Pirates will be out September 5th. So definitely.
I want signed copies. Just let me know. Then you'll get the money.
I know. We got to figure out which ones you have and which ones you don't have.
Well, I think I have your first 3. You have 3 out now?
I have 4.
4. All right. Yep. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
Yep. Yeah, one just came out in March. Okay. So that one just came out in March. And then actually, the kids book that they're basing off of my Lighthouse book will be out this summer because they're turning that into a kids book.
Oh, cool. I think you did tell me that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that one's coming out this summer too. And I'll have to make sure I get you a copy for that one. Awesome. So yeah, those are exciting things that are happening here. And in case people didn't see the announcement, the event that you and I were attending in October has been postponed, and we'll keep you guys up to date on when that new date is. But other than that,
happening. I think it's the 30th of May through the 1st of June of 2025.
Right.
Yep. It's funny because when I got to notice, I looked at my wife. I'm like, oh my God, they moved it up a few months. And I looked and said, oh, 2025. I got a year to prepare. Yeah.
I was like, if they moved it up to this May, I'm not going to be able to make it because I'm still in training and can't request time off for another 2 months.
I don't know why I was thinking that, but yes, that's at Wilson Castle in Proctor, Vermont. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
I was looking forward to that one.
Yeah, well, we're still gonna have it. It's gonna be another year, but I'm sure we'll be seeing each other long before that because we want to get some stuff done in Florida.
Exactly.
Lighthouses, want to do some lecturing, some educational stuff.
Yep, and lots of exciting things are happening. Some things behind the scenes that we really can't talk about yet. So once we get those contracts signed and move forward, that is going to be some exciting news that we'll be sharing with everyone as well. And real quick, Petra is saying hello. I want to make sure we say hello to her.
How you doing, sweetie?
And then also, since we're talking about events, today's guest is, she wants to go with us in Florida.
Well, you're already there, so we'll just meet you there. You got, both you ladies are down there.
Yep. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But you do have an event coming up soon, which is what today's show is going to be based on. We have some guests related to that event. Do you want to talk about a little bbit that before we bring them on board?
Yeah. So just to set the stage, I've been thinking about this for a while. Heather and I were talking about bringing the Yaples on. This was a case that I worked on with my team back in, I think we started in 2007, 2008, and worked the case for about 3 years. This is something that Lorraine was involved in with me. She was, helping us with the case. And it was pretty bad. I don't want to say it was demonic because I'm not really sure if it was an actual demon. The house is known as the Enfield Demon House. I don't particularly care for the name. I just call it the Enfield Haunting. That's how I lecture on the topic. I use this case as an educational talk to educate the public and other investigators that want to come out and listen to the case. But it went on for about 3 years that we were involved, and we had some other investigators involved, and finally Bishop Robert McKenna had to be brought in to cleanse the home, and he also rebaptized the children. The girls, the twin girls, were I think a year and a half old maybe at the time, very young. So I've been talking about the case for a number of years when I lecture, and people are fascinated by the story. So I said, "Hey guys, would you mind coming on the show and talking about what happened in the past?" I think they moved into the house. House was built in 1771. It's a very old property, very old part of Enfield, Connecticut, and there was a lot of tragedy surrounding in and around the house, not just the home, but the whole neighborhood. And the Apples will share some of those stories with us tonight. But I'm really excited about this. What I'm going to be doing is on Saturday, May 4th, we had the idea is I'm going to go up to the house and speak to a select number of people. We can only fit a certain number of people in the living room. And I'm going to show them some of the compelling evidence that we caught in the home, and telling the stories of what actually happened in the home where they're sitting. And that's rare. Not a lot of people get a chance to experience that kind of things in a private residence. I know there's a lot of public ghost hunts everywhere, and everybody, does those, and they're a lot of fun. But there's only going to be a limited number of people because you only fit so many people in the living room. And I'm going to speak for, you know me, Heather. I could talk forever, but I've got a lecture series that I'm going to do. It could probably cover about 2 hours. The event's going to run from about 6 p.m. to midnight, and the folks that come out will be able to tour the home with the family. They could do some investigating. They could take some photographs, things like that. So I'm thinking it's going to be very educational, but it's going to be a little bit of fun too. I'd like to bring Jay and Elka Yapel and Mackenzie, one of the twins, is going to come on, and I'm going to ask them to take us back to when they first moved into the house. I believe at that point Elka was just pregnant with the girls. And so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Like Mr. Wilson there. Hi guys.
Yeah, Mr. Wilson. Well, look, I'm so glad you guys decided to do this, because I really want people to understand that this was a really real case, and it was very harrowing at times. And we were talking about physical attacks, poltergeist activity, growling noises that were heard, black shadows, black figures being seen in and around the home. So why don't you guys, Jay, why don't you start us off by take us from day one when you first maybe bought the house or moved in. Tell us what happened from the beginning.
Okay, you guys are in for a treat, because normally when we tell our stories, it's usually just talking about the history of the house, but we're going to get into personal experiences, things. Like we were saying, to go all the way back to the beginning, we were looking for houses, and we were like looking everywhere. And at the time where I was working, I was like a facilitator manager. I was running in between a manager and the company I was working for, and it was an 18-story building. So at the time, as we were looking for houses, the market was going sky high. Houses, like I always say, houses that were going for 20,000 were going for 100. Houses that were for 100 were going for 300,000. So there's one day, going back to the very beginning, I was having a meeting with the manager. Her name was Michelle, and we were going over some blueprints and things like that, and over doing some build outs, that was happening. And I was just explaining. I said, Olga's pregnant. I said, we're trying to buy a house. I said, they're out of reach right now. I said, I can't afford a $500,000 home. So she said, well, talk to my husband, John. She said, John is liquidating a lot of properties. John and her, they own a lot of homes, but John's dream was to own a large car dealership like the Bateras and the Belises. So he had to sell a lot of property. So she said, why don't you go to Enfield and check out the house? She goes, it needs a lot of work, but she goes, Jay, you can fix it up and make it into whatever you want. So we came here the first time, me and Elka, we came here and we met John. And We looked at the place and I was like, no way. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is, I mean, a lot. Elka's like, no way. So John's seen it, I mean, there was no window cover in the wall. It was just in rough shape. So John sweetened the deal. John's like, here's the keys, guys. Come back as much as you want. And he says, Jay, don't, whatever. So we came back the second time and John showed up. So what happened was how we got into this thing was John basically said, listen, Jay, he goes, construction, he goes, I put brand new windows in, I put a brand new furnaces in. He says, I put all new roof, all the big ticket items are paid for. He goes, I took care of them all for you. He goes, all you gotta do is sheetrock. He goes, you call in some of your buddies. He goes, you get the place looking like brand new. So he pumped me up, and Uncle's like, no way, no, no, no. So John's like, just keep coming. He goes, check it out, guys. You got the keys. So John left. So we looked at it, and Elka's like, can you do it? And us guys like Superman. I'm working 65, 70 hours a week. Sure, I got babies coming. I can build a house. Why not? Right? So we came back the third time, and then I started realizing, what, this is gonna be an awful lot. This is a lot more than I think I can bite on. But Elka decided, what? She says, if you can do it, if you can make it work, she goes, I'll give in. She hated the house, and I'll let Elka talk. She hated the house, so I don't want to have her say I persuaded her, but everything was all set. And I'll let Elka tell the story next, because what happens next was so terrifying. It was a third time here. We were leaving. We had brought two vehicles, and on the way out, Elka's last words I heard was, "Oh my, I got to go back and make sure that the door is locked for John." And I was heading to my vehicle. We took two separate vehicles, and that's where I'm going to let you talk about what happened
I
next.
should also mention we never listened to any of the warning signs either, because at this point, John's nephew, I don't know, a family member was living here and was fixing up stuff. And we met him once when he was here, and he was talking really weird. And like, he works usually during the night, because all the time when he went to bed at night, the radio goes off or he hears footsteps. And but Jay said, oh, he probably doesn't want us to buy the house. So he kind of like made it kind of like sounded like, oh, you don't want the house, don't worry about it.
And
So
that's what it
that was
sounded
kinda
like.
yeah, so we had like, so, but going back to that night when we left, he was first and I walked, no, that's not true. I went first down, you were behind me. And I start going down the stairs, and be honest, I don't remember much. I just feel like kind of like I'm falling down the steps. And she said I did kind of like, I went with my hands
Your
in the
arms were like
back.
flying out, like someone
So
pushed
kind of
you.
like almost like someone, and I stumbled down the stairs, and luckily, I finally down on the stairs. I fell, but I fell on the side curb, and so I didn't fell on my belly because I was 7 months pregnant, and so, and he said, what happened? And I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't remember much. I went down the stairs, and all of a sudden I kind of like feel like stumbling down the stairs. And he said, it looked like someone shoved you. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. So he looked around, and he opened up the door again and looked around if someone is maybe hiding in the house or someone is here. So yeah, that was kind of like the
Because I always,
first time in the house where I'm kind of like, that's
So this was when you were just
Yeah.
looking at the house. You hadn't bought the house yet.
we hadn't
Right?
even bought the house yet.
Bought it
Did,
yet.
well, Alka, when Jay said that you didn't like the house, was it a feeling that you had? Did they share any stories with you? Did they say, "Hey, this house may be haunted," or
No,
they didn't say
they
anything? It
never.
was just a feeling.
No, it was just a feeling. I didn't like the house. I didn't like the area. I didn't like the house. And it didn't look welcoming. Where he said to me, well, the house is still under construction. Of course it doesn't look welcoming. But it was not my thing. I didn't want in it. But we also had the pressure, kind of like we had to move. So we had,
Yeah, I'm gonna back up when you get there, so they know what was going on at the
yeah.
time.
So we had to see that we find a place to live. So there was kind of like a little bit of pressure too, to say, oh yeah, of course, we're gonna look around and maybe see something else, or we're gonna rent something in the meantime. So there was a factor too where I said, well, if you can do it, then let's do it, you know.
And it just established the timeline, Jay. This was 2006, right?
So 2006, and
Okay.
what was happening is at the time we were living in Northampton, Mass, and we were renting a nice place off one of her sister's relatives. They owned a lot of property in Northampton, and in 2004, my father had called and he said, "Listen, you know, my father, he had kids all the way up into his 60s, but he said, Jay, I'm getting older. I'm getting towards 80." And he says, "I don't want to be alone." Now, my father was a general contractor by trade.
Mhm.
So he had built his basement into a beautiful apartment for himself. So he asked if we wanted to move to Westfield, Mass, and rent out the house. So I figured we weren't going to move. That's where we were going to have the babies, was in Westfield. But when Michelle offered to take a look at this house, I never thought actually we're going to buy it. But like Elka said, there was a lot of warning signs. Now, like whatever this entity was, it was very, which you know, Joe, you were on ground zero. It was very powerful. Um, what had happened first was the day we were supposed to move. I had a lot of friends. I had friends in law enforcement. I had friends all over. I had about 30 guys ready to move in. Right, I had the trucks, everything ready to go.
Mhm.
A lot of support. The day we were supposed to move, we had a freak storm. It rained so heavy, the wind, it was knocking out power. So the guys canceled. So we were like, okay, we talked to my dad. I said, we're going to move next weekend. Now, guess what happens? As we're getting ready to set that up, half the guys were on duty. Some couldn't work. Some were working up at Summers, up at the correctional facilities. Some were Southampton cops. Some were Springfield cops. It was a bunch of mixed nuts, you know, having a lot of friends like that. So the wind came, it was bad. So they said, you guys got to cancel. So next weekend, I started to line up guys. So now instead of having 20, 30 guys, I'm down to 15 guys. But then that Wednesday, get a phone call. My father's brother died. My uncle Lester died. So
Okay.
now we're supposed to move, and now I'm supposed to go to a funeral. I'm supposed to do all these things. So now we're moving in, can't go to the funeral. I'm moving in with a skeleton crew,
Yeah,
you know, no
we
pun
see
intended.
more people were supposed to be helping us because they said we're gonna go and take care with your dad and the funeral. So we had these, but backing up to that too, we should have had when the
There's
day
more warning
came
signs.
to sign the paper at the lawyers. He said, "Well, there is one more thing you guys have to do," and he said, "You have to pay 1 year ahead of your house insurance."
So they wanted 1 year house insurance. So at that point,
And I'm kind of
Elko,
like, yes, because we didn't have it. I'm kind of
we spent everything. We
That
were
was your
throwing,
out, right? That was your.
that was Elko's way out because we were we were throwing money down like nothing. We were like throwing money down on almost like John Gotti. We're like, you know, 500 here, 1,000 here,
Yeah.
and the bank account's just going. And now when they come up and said you need $1,200, Elko's like, oh, the deal's off. Sorry guys, but John's like, no, no. He says, you know what? I'll pay it. I'll pay you guys 1 year in advance house insurance. He goes, consider this my housewarming gift for you guys.
Wow.
And then they said, well, the guy said, well, you need to have this, and that fixed. And this is the stories I don't talk about. Well, John's family has a huge construction company out of New Haven, Connecticut. So I said, you know what, John? I said, I can't get the roof fixed. I said, you know, it never got finished. The plumbing, this part has to get done. I said, I said, I can't cover it. So John says, don't worry about it. You guys only concentrate on one thing, is having babies. just getting babies, getting into his house. So so we're like, okay, Elko was like, nah, but now it gets even stranger. As we get the papers signed, everything gets up. John gets it with his attorney, and I'm watching him. He gets down the hall and he says, "Thank God I got rid of that house," to his attorney. I was like, "What?" I'm like, "What do you mean by thank God I got rid of the house?" So we had no idea. So as you guys could see, if we could look back into a crystal ball,
Yeah.
there was like little signs saying don't do it, don't do it. But we didn't believe in the paranormal. We're just saying, look at this happens. This is, some
So let me ask you,
stumbles.
if they had been forthcoming with the stories, do you think you would have bought it?
No, no. If they said, "Hey, the house is haunted by Mrs. Murphy," I would have said, "You know what? There's no way." No, because one thing I do believe in divine intervention, and I will share you guys one story why if they said this place is haunted, there'd be no way. One of the things I will tell you, Joe, which I don't tell it that many people, was I had a near death experience back in 1998. After I left the Army, I went in the Navy, and we were flying sorties up in the Middle East, and I was running a work center, and
Thank you
I
for your
told the
service, by
guys,
the way.
yeah, I
Thank you
was
for your
telling the
service. Appreciate it.
thank you, Joe. So I was telling the guys, I looked at some of my guys. Some were, some were studying for college, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna volunteer and take the trash, and we throw it off the aft of the ship. Now this was on an aircraft carrier. So as I go out there, and there was two guys pulling watch, and I throw off the trash, and I'm looking back. Now at the time, this is way before I met Elka. I was emailing this girl I met in France. So I was gonna go take a left turn, go
Keep
up
it
on these.
clean. Keep it
Huh?
clean.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know. Those those days are
There's
locked up.
kids here.
Yes, yes. So I was going to walk up on these corrugated steels, and I was going to walk underneath the flight decks to our supply department. And I knew the guy that ran it, and he lets me use his computer. So as I turned to go up and I start walking, I hear this voice, "Stop, go back." And I'm like, you know what? I'm working 18 hours. I'm burnt out. I start walking. The voice gets louder. "Go back now." And I'm like, nah. Now I go to take one more step. The voice says, "Go back. Look at the stars. They're the same stars Christ saw 2,000 years ago." Now, luckily, I listened to that voice. I turned around, I went back, I leaned against the ship, and I was looking, and I looked up, and this F-16, instead of coming like this to catch his tail hook, he came like this. And when he did, the whole Middle East exploded into a big ball of white light. I turned my head, and right where I would have been walking, I would have been vaporized. There was
Wow.
shrapnel, there was burning flames. It was awful that day, and that's as far as I'm going to go, because nobody wants to know the rest after that.
Wow.
I stepped back and I said, "Thank you, God," because I shouldn't have been here. Now, that was the first time. I go back. I finally try to make it to my GQ station, which is your general quarter station. Everything's filling with black smoke. They're yelling, "Man overboard, battle stations." Nobody knows what's going on. So I finally try to get my way up. And as soon as I go up to where this door was, I go to open this door. I got chills now, guys, because it's my second time God stepped in. I go to reach for the door to the hatch so I could walk up to the O2 level, and guess what happens? As I go to reach the door, I hear this peppering sound. Pop 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 pop, sound like popcorn. The munitions, the bullets, right, as they call them, were
Mm.
exploding because of the fires. And if I opened that door, I would have been Swiss cheese. I would have
Wow.
been hit by about 1,000 rounds. So when that happened, I realized, you know what? I backed up. I went down. A guy came up to me, and I'm not going to go in it because it gets bad. A guy grabbed me, and he asked me to be stretcher bearers because we had, well, I'll put it like this: we had casualties, and I'll leave it at that point. So some of the things I happen to see that night, I wish I could burn them out of my head. But going forward, if they came that night and they said, "Listen, the house is haunted. We'll give you a good deal," I would have said, "No way." You know, I believe in
Mm.
God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in divine intervention. But if you believe in God and divine intervention, then that means there you have an opposite. You have the devil, the beast, and something else out there. So we had no idea what we were in for. So after he said,
It was a different time too, because I remember before we moved, we started watching kind of like the first TV shows who came out, kind of like Taps.
we
There
thought
was
Taps was a
kind
comedy because we thought it was kind of cool, but
That
we
was
thought
the
it was never
first
real.
paranormal thing was
Mhm.
came out, and we started watching that. But other than that, hearing paranormal groups or so, we kind of like, oh. So it was actually we watched it every Thursday night. We watched Tabs, and but never thought kind of like, okay, we ending up with something like that. So yeah, that
So
was
so this so you guys so you moved in.
So we
What
move in.
what I'm trying to get to where you guys started experiencing what you would call, you know, paranormal activity.
Okay.
Was it
So
right
now
away? Was it after a few weeks?
it was, well, for me, it was it started out, I think, with Elka, because I was having little things happen. I would have my wallet, I would put it on a counter, it would disappear. The keys you
Okay.
put down disappeared. So what we didn't realize at the time is that this entity was highly intelligent, very volatile, very cunning, and very, very, very strong. So this entity was actually started testing us to see what it was like a game of chess. And we didn't know that. We were playing its game. And we were just pawns in it. So it was testing us by hiding things. It would take the wallet, it would take Elka's purse, it would take the keys. Then it progressed to arguing. We never used to argue. We used to go out in Northampton. We used to hold hands, walk down, get dinners at some of the famous restaurants.
Well, you mean you don't do that now? You don't hold
Now I'm her
hands?
slave. Now I'm her slave. Now it's like, did you get this done, Jay? Jay, there's 10 more things. I'm like, honey,
Yeah.
I'm disabled. No, you
See,
got to
see,
get it
see,
finished
so
now.
you got the honey-do list, right?
Yeah, see her. Look at see that smile. She cracks that whip.
I'm sorry.
I
I just
flick my heels.
How about me?
But yeah, you're junior. You're coming up to the ranks. I pity your husband.
so what? So this, when you guys moved in, what
When I
month
was
was that? Because the girls were born in
Wait.
December.
Joe's talking. All right, so now guys, we're gonna get into now we're gonna get into it. Now we got the baseline. So now what happens is things are just missing. We're arguing. Things are going on. But now, I had a couple weeks off from work to get settled in. Elka was still she was still working, and her doctor. And I'll tell you some funny stories because it's going to get really bad in a minute. So Elka's from Frankfurt, Germany, and you know how she is, Joe. She won't stop to the bitter end. So she worked for this doctor's office. And they were really good friends because Elka was a surgical nurse in Germany, and
Mhm.
so she worked for this guy. His name was Dr. Rosenberg. So what happened was Dr. Rosenberg came to her and said, "You are one tough, stubborn German." He goes, "What is it going to take for me to get you to leave?" And she said, "Listen." She pulls out a list, right? And she says, I have twins coming, Doc." And you know, she's like out to here. She goes, "I have to. I need double everything. I need a double stroller. I need blah 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 blah." And so he's like, "Okay." So he goes out and he goes, "Make me a list," right? So he
Mhm.
goes, go sit down, go sit in my office, take a chair, kick your feet up, and make me a list of everything that you need. And then I can tell you when you can quit working, right? So she goes out and she writes everything down and she's everything there. And she said, "See, this is why I can't quit working because," she goes jokingly, "you don't pay me enough money." And she goes, "And I gotta work till I have my kids." And he was joking. So
So
he's
tell me
like,
I need a
"Okay."
raise without saying I want a raise, right?
Yeah. So he says, "Okay." He goes, "Go home. I'll see you on Monday." So what happens is on Monday, right? She goes to work. I get a phone call in my office because at the time I had my truck. She says, "Jay, you got to come up to Northampton. I have to pack up. And I say, oh no, she got fired. I'm like, oh no. So I'm like, I'm coming up. So I drove from Springfield, Mass. I got bad out of hell all the way to Northampton, Mass. I walk into the doctor's office. I got a really sick feeling. I'm thinking, you know what? They had a fight. Elka knocked out the doctor. And now I got to go pick up the desk. I'm thinking, oh my God, Dr. Rosenberg's there. And the guy's got a dry sense of humor. So I'm like, he goes, come with me. I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, it's your wife. I'm like, oh no. He goes, come with me. So I go in the back and he's standing by his office door. And Elka's, I'm like, what happened? I said, did you murder somebody, Elka or something? Because she's standing in front of the door. He's standing in front of the office. So he goes, your wife is stubborn. And I said, I know. And he goes, Elka opened my office door. I'm like, what's going on, guys? Joe, she opened the door. She burst out in tears. I was like, oh my God. That weekend, right, to get her to quit, Dr. Rosenberg and his wife took that list and they went shopping the whole weekend. They bought every single item Alka needed for the twins.
That's
and
awesome.
more. And his
I don't think
office
you've
was
ever told me
filled.
that story. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Wow.
he says, yeah. And there was balloons. They had a party and cake. It was awesome. And I was in tears because I'm like, I said, Doc, I wanted to pay him. He's like, no. He goes, you only have one job. He goes, you take care of her and the two little kids coming. So we loaded up the truck and her car. And he goes, you take as much time as you need. And he goes, make sure the babies are okay. So we get home.
So for me, it started a little bit more the experience than for him, because then I actually started being home.
You were home
And
more, right?
So, and the bad part was too, I was kind of like 4 weeks after we moved into the house, and due to the fact that we didn't have so many people, the stuff was all over the place. I mean, the people who we had everything organized to tell, oh, this goes in this room and this room, but everything was in a hectic because we didn't have enough people. So we found milk carton in the attic, and so the whole house was upside down. And so, and due to the fact I was really not really helpful because I couldn't move the boxes around, so
Well, of course
we
not. Yeah.
slowly tuckled around.
So now she's
So
laying in bed.
I'm home alone. Everything is kind of like still in boxes and nothing is homey. And then the noises started kind of like, and then we were like, okay, it's an old house. It was the beginning of November and the wind was howling. And then constantly the dogs were going off. And I'm kind of like, what is that? So I thought all the time someone is
The
in the house.
noises.
In the house, and I called, Jay, are you home? Because I heard footsteps. And then one time, I mean, the doctor said, hey, you have to spend more time in bed, because I started having preeclampsia, where you kind of like getting these feet and everything. So I was laying in bed.
Lobster claws.
And so in the dogs, we had two little Yorkshires, so they were laying with me in bed, and all of a sudden they started crawling and staring at the door, at the bedroom door. So I'm kind of like, okay. So I turn around and I see this black dog.
It wasn't a small dog. It was like a 300-pound black dog.
Huge black dog walking. So, and really slow. And the dogs were going crazy. Not that they got off the bed. They were just standing there and growling and barking. And the dog didn't get any type of disturbed or looked into the room because he heard the dog. Nothing. He was just kind of like walking, slow walking. So I made myself out of bed, kind of like, oh my God, looking, and the dog was gone. So
And I was walking from towards the other house, like through the wall.
to the.
You came up to the
He had
staircase.
seen it also.
Yeah, he started
Stared at her.
Started kind of like at the nursery, coming kind of.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Right.
And then he went through the. I mean, I would assume, because I looked down the stairs and nothing was on the stairs, so I don't know. If he went through the wall or if it disappeared.
So this was about. This is probably like October of.
No, there
06,
was
right?
November.
Early November.
Okay, because the girls were born at the end of December.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to put a timeline together for everyone, because
All
we
right.
weren't involved in the case yet.
Right. So yeah. So what happened was, I get a phone call. Jay, get home now. So I closed my office door. I called Michelle. Said, hey, I got to take off. We're doing a live radio show, Courtney. Do you want to say hi to Joe and everybody?
Hi.
You want to say hi to Uncle Joe?
Hi,
and everybody?
Courtney. How you
Hey,
doing,
look
dear?
what she's holding in her hand.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh.
give this to my boyfriend because it just happened upstairs.
Well, what happened upstairs?
We were upstairs and
Don't give anything to her. Her
I
boyfriend.
started seeing faces in the window, and then I had a bad feeling someone was gonna get into a car accident tonight. And I looked at Nate and I said, "Listen," I said, "please take this." And then Nate started seeing black shadows, and they started calling his name. So I pulled out my prayers, and I made Nate say with me the 3 prayers: Hail Mary, Saint Michael, and Lord's Prayer. And I told Nate, "I'm gonna give this to you. Keep it in your car for protection."
Where
I
did you
just
see this,
know.
Courtney? In your room?
It was in my room. It was in my attic, and I'm very. My boyfriend is very special to me, and I want to keep him safe.
Not special to me at all. I could run.
So, of
No.
course,
All right, it's a family
I
show.
just
Come on.
told.
Yeah.
I was
So-
kind of letting him know, like, listen, like,
All right,
if they try talking to you, don't say anything, ignore them. But
All right.
so
I'll be there on Saturday.
okay.
I'll be by on Saturday.
But
Okay.
I asked him, I said, listen, because I thought he was joking when he said it a third eye. So I was questioning him, and I was kind of like, okay, you want to say this. So, of course, I grew up in this house, so I know where the hot spots are. So I was kind of like playing with him, like, hey, do you know? And I didn't say anything to him. He didn't know this, and he just knew off the bat where everything was. So I kind of.
Is he okay? I'm not. I mean,
He's okay. Just I'm worried about him because I'm just scared for him. So I don't.
no, he'll be fine. I mean, they're not gonna get him.
So, I think it's important to note that a couple of months ago, the family contacted me. Now, I haven't seen you guys in like 16 years, 15
It's
years.
been a while.
And the house,
Okay.
I guess the house is active again. The family's having experiences. I haven't had time to investigate anything yet, but a couple of weeks ago, I spent an entire day with the family. The house felt very nice to me, very loving home.
Yeah.
But I wasn't tuned into it. So this is interesting, Courtney. I'm going to be up there Saturday at some point, and I'll take a look around.
Okay.
All right, don't be afraid.
It was weird because, and then I asked him. I said, "Was this the first time?" He's like, "No," because apparently when you guys were talking about it that night, he was seeing things across the room and everything. So I'm just, as a loving girlfriend,
Yeah. I'm also a loving father too. So
Keep me posted.
we could sacrifice him to the sun gods. So.
Talking to you.
All right, Courtney. I'll
All right.
see you soon, dear.
All right.
Thanks for
so
sharing.
we're gonna ramp this up, guys, because we want we established a baseline. So now I get a call. Jay, get home. So I lock up my office. I come flying here. Luckily, I'm only 10 minutes away. And she talks about this giant black dog, and the way she's describing it, I'm like, my God, this dog has to be like 300 pounds. And it's huge. So what's going on in my mind at this point is I know it's an old house. On the deed it says 1771. You got all this stuff around here. You got the Connecticut River, and so I'm thinking there's tunnels. People dig tunnels. I thought maybe there was like vagrants. I thought maybe somebody knew where these tunnels are because we got houses next to it. So I thought maybe somebody's playing a game. I thought they know where tunnels are. This is my mindset. I'm not thinking about ghosts. I'm thinking, okay, when I find this person or persons, they're not going to be happy because I'm like, if a dog can come in, if things are moving. So now I started to interrogate Elka. I asked her, I said, who did you give the keys to? Now this is what's weird because now we're fighting. I said, did you
So
give
you're
them to
looking
your
for
sister?
a rational, natural explanation.
Yeah,
for what's
I'm trying to
going on,
get rational. I'm
which
trying
is the
to
way to think. You don't want to
so I'm
take the
trying to be
nuclear
rational.
option.
So I'm like, who did you give the keys to? Did you give your sister? Who else? Did you give them to my sister? Anybody? She's like, no. So I changed the locks on the door. But not just once, but 3 times. Because I'm still not believing in this stuff because I'm like, there's got to be a logical explanation. So before we even moved in, my brother Cliff, I showed you a picture of him, right? The guy was 6'2". He was an ex-Marine, 8 years. The guy was like super intelligent. He was like Carl Sagan, And while we were getting the floor ready next door, and we rented a sander from Home Depot, and I looked and I said, Cliff, and he's like, don't say it. And I said, you know what? I said, someone died here. He goes, I told you not to say it. It looked like somebody had bled out. You could see like the head, the neck, their torso, and I tried sanding the living crap out of it to get it out, and we couldn't. It was embedded into the floor. We got a lot out. We triple coat polyurethaned it, and
Mhm.
we said, don't say nothing to Elka. We tried covering up with a rug and different things, and so now it's it's getting late November. Thanksgiving came. We went out for Black Friday. We bought the first digital camera. They didn't have iPhones back then. God, I feel like a dinosaur. I mean, it's only been 2006. So now I come home from work and it's December, right? We get the Christmas tree already set up,
Mhm.
like right around December 1st. So now I come home, it's December 6th. So that's a timeline. So I go and I take some pictures. I don't think you guys can really see them. Joe has seen them. Joe knows what I'm talking about. I only have a couple of pictures, guys. I have more. But anyhow, in the picture, I had taken a picture. Can you find them while I'm talking? I didn't. I want to give these guys a really good radio show. So anyhow, I take a picture of the Christmas tree and a big white light appears. Boom. So I'm like you, Joe. Okay, there's a logical explanation. It's a reflection reflecting this way. Then I take another picture. Boom. Now this white light moves all the way over to the wooden blinds. So
Mhm.
I'm playing with a camera and I go to superimpose it to magnify it. And
Mhm.
then I'm like, oh my God, there's a man's face. His hair is parted in the middle like this, right? He has his
Mhm.
face, that big white light is part of his face, and he's staring at me. So I'm like, ha ha ha, that's me. I reach up and I'm wearing a baseball hat. That
Mhm.
wasn't me. So then on the third picture I took, there was nothing there. It was normal. So Elka was coming down the stairs, and here's one of them. This is the third picture. You can see there's literally, oh yeah, right here. All right, so guys, I don't know if you can see this real
I
quick.
don't think that nobody can see
I don't think you guys can really see it that
Yeah,
well,
I've
but you've
seen the
seen,
pictures. Yeah.
yeah, there was a light. The second one, the ball moved over to here with the man's
Mhm.
face. I don't know if you guys can see it. All right. And the third one, there's nothing there. So when she came down the stairs, I had told her, I said, hey, look it. She goes, don't even start. Don't even start. She goes, we're gonna go out to dinner. She goes, I don't want you. She goes, it's your fault. You bought this house. I didn't realize that she's experiencing things. And
I
now,
think the tree, um, this time of year, I think we changed out the Christmas lights 4 times.
well, we'll get to that. But let me
Yeah,
get,
we're
yeah,
kind of like constantly.
yeah, let me get to that because I'm going to get to that point. Yeah,
Yeah, but you have to.
I know I'm trying to speed it up because you don't cut me off. So anyhow, what happened was, so now we go out to dinner, we come back, everything's going fine.
Mhm.
She goes to see the doctor on it was December 29th. The doctor says, I'm going on vacation. We're gonna do the C-section when I come back in January. Elka's like, no, I'm having the babies. She goes, listen, Elka, I've been doing this for 15 years, blah, 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 blah. That night she gets her bag ready and she
Mhm.
freaked me out. She scared the crap out of me. She goes, I'm not coming home tonight. And the way she said it, I said, she goes, I'm done. I'm not coming home. And I'm like, don't ever say that. And because I have a lot of superstitions, and I said, don't say you're not coming back. So of course that night she wakes up, bam, the babies come. Now now whatever's in the house ramps up. Now we're in a very battle. So she ends up to the hospital. The babies came. I come
Mhm.
home now. This is where I realize something's not right. I walk in the house. Now, you know me, Joe. Back then, I was a bigger guy than I am now. I'm shrinking as I get older. The
Mhm.
house felt energized. The house
I'm
felt like
not.
it came alive. Huh?
I'm not.
I know. So I'm shrieking. So I'm shrieking. Help me. Anyhow, I got a sense of humor, others, so don't mind me. So what happens is the dogs are following me. Everything's crazy. So now I'm leaving every light on in the house. Now I go upstairs. I'm tossing, I'm turning. So now I'm being rational again. Okay, it's separation anxiety. My wife's in a hospital. I'm having babies. I'm home alone. It's separation anxiety. But now all of a sudden, the paranormal starts. I'm laying in bed about 3 a.m. I see this big white light come down the stairs. Wham! 15 minutes later, another big light. Wham! So I'm thinking a car's going by. This is how I'm thinking in my head. A car's going by. It's reflecting off of something through the reflection of the glass. Somehow, this is how I'm thinking. It's reflecting off the glass, bouncing off the walls, and shooting down the stairs. So then I get up and I'm like, hey, if anybody's up there, leave. I bought the house. You know what? I'm thinking maybe it's kids, maybe because the house was vacant, right? But thank God I did not go up the stairs that night. I didn't get any sleep. I rushed over to Bay State Medical, see Elka and everything. The babies were born premature. Elka finally gets home, and all of a sudden things start going wrong, right? I don't realize this. I keep getting phone calls. Jay, get home now. So I come home. She's like, there's somebody in the house. I hear somebody going on up and down the stairs. Then I hear there. She goes, there's a dog growling in the house. So all this stuff's happening, and I can't put my mind to what's going on.
So this is the first time you're experiencing it.
Right.
Now that
So
you're alone in the house. So your first experiences was when Elka was in the hospital.
Right.
Okay.
So now Elka's home. Now she's not doing well now. Out of nowhere, her blood. Now the baby's just in the hospital because they were born premature. Elka goes to the doctor. He rushes her to the hospital. Bam. Her blood pressure is so sky high. The doctor said, you should be dead. I don't know why you're still walking. So now I'm home. I'm running to work, right? I'm running to Bay State Medical in Springfield, going to visit Elka in the hospital, coming home, trying to get the dogs, everybody. So I'm like Superman. So now I'm having things happen to me at the house. Now I'm seeing what I think is shadows. I'm thinking, I'm trying, everything's, this ain't real. This can't be real, right? I'm hearing voices, right? All this stuff. So now I go to pick up Elka at the hospital. Now we have that talk. Now I take her out to dinner. I said, I have to talk to you. I have to tell you something important. She had no idea. And I said to her, I think we have a ghost. A house is haunted. She goes, you think? She goes, oh my God. She goes, you think? So I said, we're going to call up a local priest and we're going to have the house blessed. Maybe it's somebody that lived here and died. Now, Heather, we had no idea what we're in for now. So I call up the priest. Things are happening. I'm getting phone calls, get home from work. Now, as we're waiting for the priest to show up, takes a few weeks, the babies come home. The babies are home. Now, it's the first Easter, 2007. All of a sudden, we go out to the German restaurant. We all have a good time. We come back. Now, I go to do some dishes. Now, you hear this. You're banging on the walls. I mean, like banging, boom, boom, and then you hear scratching. The dogs are going off. The babies are screaming. Alka's yelling for me. She says something's either trying to get in or out. She goes, don't open the door. I finally opened up the door. Nobody's up and down the street. Nothing. Now, it felt like the house was rocking. It was something came alive.
So they were banging on the walls from the vacant side, not the family side.
Vacant side.
So I just want to make sure everybody's aware that the home is a duplex and the family lives on one side and the other side is vacant, which Jay was fixing up to hopefully get a renter.
Right.
And that didn't work out so well, did it?
No. So now we know it's Easter 2007. Now we're trying to get things going. I'm working on this side. Elka, the baby's at home now. Elka calls me up, get home again. Now I'm thinking to myself, holy cow! I said, I can't keep running home. But luckily, the manager, she's a mother too. She understands. So I'm coming home, and now she's telling me about the baby toys. Tell Joe about the baby toys, how they all went off.
They had all these electronic toys, kind of like in the
Like little banjos, little
swing
toys.
and
the rockers, the swings.
Everything was had batteries and everything in it. And they always started kind of like right before I put them down for a nap. They all started going off at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like it was so loud because every single electronic thing went off, and I freaked out. I started screaming, kind of like stop.
Right.
And seconds later, boop, everything quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Everything stopped. And then I did that several times, kind of like that. The thing.
And all these devices had batteries in them. You checked?
Yeah.
Some didn't.
Did you remove the batteries and did they go
I
off?
actually
Did they
some
still
of
go
them
off?
I freaked out because it was come to a constantly pattern. So some of them actually I took the batteries out, and I'm kind of like I can't handle this. And when I called him and say, oh, this happened again and this happened again, and then he's kind of like, what the heck is going on at home, you know? Or
Yeah.
but also then
It
what
started
happened-
to. It was targeting her because she was home more, so it was going after her. We didn't know it. It was playing with her mind. It was
Yeah.
playing with her emotions, and not only that, she was seeing black shadows on the wall. And so when I came home one day, Elka literally stomped her feet and she says, I wish you don't have to go to work no more. She goes, I hate this house. She goes, I'm not alone. She goes, somebody's watching me. There's somebody in the house. So
Yeah.
as this is happening, I can't wrap my head around it at this point. I'm like, I know there's something going on. I think there's a ghost. So now I do two things. I go down to the town hall. I'm going to handle this like an investigation. I go down and I meet Colleen
Yeah, but
from
you
the
have
town
first
hall.
the priest finally.
Yeah,
came.
no, that's what I'm doing.
The
I'm getting there.
priest
Yeah,
came
so
finally,
I'm working. I got Colleen looking in. So the priest finally shows up. I meet him out and I say, okay, Father, I we talked. I said, Father, I said, my wife thinks there's something in the house. And he's like, what? A chipmunk, a squirrel, something. I said, no, a ghost. And he's like, he stopped. He's like, there's no such things as ghosts or demons. I will prove it to you. So he comes in the house. He goes on our side. He blesses the whole side. Said, CJ, nothing's there. He comes over to the renter side, and I got table saw set up. It's like a construction site. And he's like, I love the smell of fresh construction. So he goes up the stairs, blesses everything. Now there's the attic that's sealed off. Now the attic's sealed off because of the rooms. He goes, he takes 3 steps up. He freezes. He's staring at something. He goes to take one more step up. He backs down, Joe. Now he throws holy water. He backs down. He slams the door. Bam, 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 bam. He takes off. I'm chasing down the stairs. He looks at me with his panic look. Ignore it. It will go away. So now as he does that, Elka's like, where's the father? I said, he's gone. He told me to ignore it. It'll go away. I said, he just told me 15 minutes before there's no such thing as ghosts or demons. Now he's telling me to ignore it and run.
Did he ever tell you what he saw or heard?
He never said a word. He just, the look on his face, it was like, I don't want to say he saw the devil because I don't believe the devil's going to be in the house. But whatever he saw rocked him to the core because he never came back. So now,
this was the priest from, was it St. Patrick's?
I believe so. Yeah,
because I reached out to him and he wouldn't call me back. He didn't want to talk about it.
No,
really.
But
Wow.
the thing is, but everyone knew. I mean, I know I go a little bit ahead now, but in 2014, when our neighbor got shot, I helped because I was befriended with her, and I went with her to make the funeral arrangements, and we went to Hazardville, and not the St. Pat's, it was St. Bernard's in the neighbor town, and we met up with Father Melnick, and
I scared him.
And he looked at me and he said, Elka, one thing I tell you, I'm not coming to your house. So Father Melnick was never in our house, and I'm kind of like, Father Melnick, how do you know about the house? He said, oh, I saw it in the newspaper. I saw an article about the house, but I really think they were talking because he was also sometimes do Sunday masses here in.
But I also
St.
talked to him too.
Yeah, and
Yep.
so he said, "I'm not," but nobody really told us what Father John was his name, right? John,
Yeah.
what he ever saw in the house. So it was kind of like,
But Father Melnick in
Mm-hmm.
2010. Well, we got to slow down because you're bouncing, you're getting me messed up. So anyhow, let's get rolling. So now we got the priest coming in. Now it ramps up. So
Yeah.
now we're hearing what it sounds like a cane going brr, brr, up and down on the baby thing. Now the babies we had in our bedroom when they came home. We would hear now what was crazy. It would sound like something would jump off the bureau. Boom. And then you would hear this. Something running.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, what the heck's going on? So I go upstairs, check on the babies, they'd be sleeping. We'd be sitting down trying to watch TV, and then it was like that. Now they were born premature, and they call it swaddling. You know, their babies are all like this. They look like little burritos wrapped up.
Yep.
Well, what got Elka was she would go upstairs and she would find the blankets pulled over the babies' heads, and that terrified her. So she's like, "How can they do that?" So as this is happening, Colleen's calling me up from the town hall. And now it's like everything is coming together. She starts writing down because I went down there and I said, Colleen, my name is Jay Yapel. I said, I live on this thing. I want a list of everybody who owned my house. She goes, no problem. But what she didn't realize, she goes, it's gonna be $1 a copy. I said, I don't care what it costs at the time. Right. So she starts looking, she's going to the volumes, she starts printing stuff off, she stops. She reaches down. I never forget that. She pulled out an old Celtic cross and kissed it. And she says, what aren't you telling me about your house? And I said, why? What's going on? She goes, Jay, we haven't got out of the 20th century. She goes, a lot of people owned your house.
Hmm.
And I said, well, it might be haunted. She goes, you think? So she says, what I'm going to do, this is the actual thing that she had written down.
Yeah.
So she starts going down the list where we bought it, then this person bought it, then this person bought it, and this person buys it, and it's like every few months, every couple years, somebody buys it. But the good thing, well, it's not the good thing. The bad thing is she also had copies. She went and started making copies of people's death records and how they died. So as
people that had
happening,
died in the house,
people died in the house, or when they moved out, they died tragedy. Nobody died like from tuberculosis. Nobody died of cirrhosis of the liver. Nobody died. They died from cerebral hemorrhaging, gunshots,
right?
hangings.
I mean, it doesn't prove anything, but the fact that people
just
didn't spend much time in the house and there was a lot of turnover,
a lot,
could mean something.
So so she's like, they'd have flipped this whole house. So now as I'm going in, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? This is a mill town. Things happen. People come and go. No big deal. Let's just keep going. So now we decide to have some fun. We decide, you know how in the front I built that dry riverbed that looks like a fake riverbed.
Yeah.
As we're doing that, all of a sudden, we're just trying to have some fun. We got the babies out there. We got the baby monitors. And we hear this man's voice. Did you buy this house?
Mm-hmm.
I look up and there's a man. He's about 87 years old, right? And I'm like, yeah, I thought he was going to welcome us to the neighborhood. He goes, you should never have bought this house. It's evil. I'm like, what? So Elka's asking him. So I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I mean, what makes you think like something like that? He goes, when he was a little boy, he would walk by the house and he'd look up in the middle window that's boarded up, and there'd be a little boy there, and he'd wave at the boy. The boy waved back. Well, this went on for some time.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided. He beckoned the boy down. As he did that, the little boy's face turned into a hideous creature. The boy dropped his school books, ran home, told his father. They were strict. His father thought he was going to play hooky in school and started taking the belt off to hit the kid. But he started yelling, monsters, monsters, monsters. So his grandfather said, what are you talking about? He goes, when he goes, when I was a little boy, he goes, he heard a story of a young kid running out of the house, out of this house,
Yeah.
and he was hit by a horse and buggy. So I'm like, well, what is his name? I'm trying to figure his name. He goes, Peters, Parsons, something like that. So I went to Colleen, and I said, Colleen, look up this name. It begins with a P. Sure enough, way back in time, the guy owned a house for 3 months, Joe. His name was Chabelle Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
He buys the house, and there's other stories here. He buys the house, and then 3 months later, he sells the house. So Colleen's doing all the research. Now, as that's happening, we call in our first paranormal team.
Yeah, but the weird part,
You don't
going
have much
back
time.
to that old man,
Yeah,
he was
we gotta move
telling us the
forward.
story.
I
and
know. I'm trying to get to the bad stuff.
I looked up, and
Yeah.
the man was gone. I asked everywhere in the neighborhood, who's that older gentleman?
And he wasn't to be found anywhere.
Nobody
He didn't
knew
live
who
in the
he was.
neighborhood.
Nope.
Maybe was he dead? You were talking to a ghost.
We
I-
don't know. But the
You
whole
never
neighborhood,
never found out
Mariano,
who he was, huh?
Nope.
they never saw him. They don't even know. They never saw this guy or something, because our neighborhood is actually pretty
Right.
tight back then. We knew everybody. Everybody knew us. So nobody knew where he came from. So now we call in. We got to hurry up, Elka, because I didn't realize it was getting late. So now we call in a first paranormal team, because I figured, you know what? They were two police officers from Suffield, Connecticut. They worked at the college. So they come up, they have this
Mhm.
Reiki master, and bunch of people. Now at the time my sister Charlene was alive, they came in, and all of a sudden the girls went one way, the guys came with me, and all of a sudden they start yelling, hey, look at this, look at that. Well, when they went to go with Elka and my sister, we had, if you remember, there was a giant banana plant. It was huge. It went sliding across the floor. Boom, right in front of everybody. As that was happening, the guys were with me, and Elka had this little tea-light bird cage that would move like this. It was bouncing like this.
Mm-hmm.
They stayed for an hour, hour and a half. They wrote down notes. They said, we'll be back. We're going to come back once we figure out what's going on. They never came back. We called them. They were always busy.
Mm-hmm.
We called in another team, same thing. They came up. They're like, we'll be in contact. So we started going through teams after
meantime,
teams.
It ramped up more and more.
It ramped up.
I mean, I called in almost every day. The worst thing actually, or what was really bad, was I went down in the cellar. That happened a couple times. That I get the baby formula up, and I feel like kind of like someone is watching me. So I turned around, and there I see that black shadow moving in front of our boilers. Um, in the middle of that, the dryer door opens up, the clothes fall out. I drop the baby formula, run up the stairs, lock the door, call him. You have to come home. Someone is in the cellar. And so it went on and on. And then the kids started kind of like they're having more. Courtney didn't sleep sometimes for 48 hours because someone was constantly kind of like making noises in the room. And then she started kind of like also undressing herself, kind of like completely off diapers, clothes.
Now
So
she's a
I-
baby. Now
she's a
you
baby.
got to remember, she's not even a toddler yet, because you haven't even got in there yet. So she's still a baby.
Kind of like
Yeah.
8 months, 9 months old. So I talked to the pediatrician. I said, "Hey, we have that problem. She doesn't sleep, and then she undresses herself." He said, "Well, I mean, it's kind of odd, but you know what? Buy a pajama. Usually they do that with older kids, where you're gonna have the zipper and the button in the back, so they
Yeah.
cannot open it up." So I ordered these and duct taped the diapers. And
Duct tape works.
sure enough, no, sure enough, after when I came up, after they had a nap, again, she was undressed and
Mm-hmm.
the diaper
So
was
now-
off, the pajama off, and so it ramped up. And I came
Yeah,
every
okay.
5 minutes to him, this happened, this happened. So he started again, kind of like looking for.
So now
Okay.
so now as things are ramping up, now Okay, go, Kenzie, do whatever you gotta do, because we don't have much time, and it's just going bad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
let's get to the point where we came in.
Yeah, so now what happens
Then I
is,
can add to the story.
it's at the point where things are getting really bad. Things are levitating. I witnessed things levitate. I watched that whole entire baby changing table levitate off the ground.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm hearing things, and now I get attacked. Now I was attacked, and I'm laying in bed. I think you remember this, Joe. I'm laying in bed. Elka goes to bed, and all of a sudden I hear somebody come up the stairs. And as I look over, I see a woman with long blonde natty hair, and she had this dress on. It was like kind of a gray dress, all ripped on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember she's carried these high heel shoes and open toes. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Then all of a sudden she's had this hideous laugh. And then next thing I know, she jumped on my chest. And I was trying to pull my hands back. And I went to yell. I couldn't yell. So then I said, my God, my God. She said, there is no God. So the next morning I wake up to go to work, and my hands were so tied up, I couldn't move them. And I looked, and I had black and blues of like little fingerprints. That's how hard she had
Are
me.
you sure you were awake? This wasn't something.
No, I was awake. I was reaching for something, Joe, in the house. So you know me,
Okay.
right? So if that was a real person, we would have been having an ambulance here. 911 been called. So now what happened is I stayed home, and now as all this stuff's going on, we're chewing up priests, we're chewing up paranormal investigators. We end up calling in your team, and it got so bad we had no idea what was going on. We tried to get out of the house, we couldn't get out of the house. I mean, so much more happened. We only have so much time on here, so we end up calling your team in. And your first team member that came in to assess the situation, he got a hold of you. Your first time I remember came up, it was peaceful. I remember everything was all peaceful, but then when you came back the second time, and that's when all hell broke loose. That's when you brought Gary, your ordained minister, Audrey, and everybody else. And then I'll let you tell that part of the story, because I'm gonna say.
Well, yeah. So I'm just trying to speed up because we are eating up a lot of time. But it's good. I mean, it's good to know the history. So we came in, and we experienced a lot of things there. I mean, a lot of the Tiffany lamp. I remember that incident was they have a Tiffany lamp in the living room that weighs. They still have it. The family still has it. Got to weigh 50 pounds. This thing is enormous. The Tiffany lamp levitated, turned upside down, and stuck into the hardwood floor. And the hole is still there. Jay's got it covered up, but it's still there. The baby's room, the nursery where the girls were, seemed to be almost like the epicenter of the activity, which is really why the family called us in, because they were just terrified. I guess they had some other folks in there. I didn't realize that those other guys came in, but they would never last. They would just leave. We're in over our heads. So, we were working with Lorraine Warren on this case, and I remember getting a call from her family, a family member, and said, Joe, please don't bring my mother to this house. So that had never happened before, and it has never happened since. Lorraine was getting on in years at the time, but Lorraine was ready to go. I was supposed to pick her up at her house and bring her up, but I remember getting a phone call asking me not to bring her. So we would be conversing about it on the phone. I would go to her house and we would, show her notes and photographs. We experienced black shadows, just like the family reports. And then the night that we have video of, one of our investigators wandered off and was taking photographs, and she was attacked. And the way she described it to us was, she said it was like two linebackers rushed her, lifted her off of her feet. And the woman, she was a big woman. She was about 5'6", 5'7", 200 pounds. And she was lifted off of her feet, thrown against the wall, almost the door jamb of the master bedroom, which was only a few feet from the nursery. Her camera went flying. One of the children Mackenzie was in the back crib in the background, sound asleep, like completely out. But Courtney was in the foreground. We had a static camera pointing towards the children. So you didn't see the investigator get thrown, but you could hear it all. And, for those of you who haven't seen the video that I have, she was terrified. She was absolutely terrified. You could hear it in her voice. She's like, Joe, something that effing pushed me. She was terrified. We come running up the stairs, and it was like pandemonium. Like, all right, get the children. Let's get them out of here. And we hear this growling noise. You could hear this deep guttural growling noise, which is what you guys had experienced previously. But we actually heard it ourselves. And, then when we looked at the footage afterwards, the tape disappeared actually for about a year.
That happens, yeah.
And it just appeared suddenly out of nowhere. It's really awkward, but the tape that we got shows some kind of entity coming out of the crib, and you have to see it to believe it. It's unbelievable. And my fear was that it was actually possessing one of the kids, Courtney, because where did this thing come from? The baby was in the crib. So you hear this growling noise, it's pandemonium. We didn't realize what we had gotten for a while until we found the tape. But then I remember, we had assistants. We had, Bob came in with Archbishop McKenna to do a cleansing on the house. He actually rebaptized the children in the home. And he
Bob
did
was
I don't want to say, what's that?
Bob was attacked really bad.
Yeah. So I was just going to get to that. So there was a couple of other investigators, and I'm trying not to name names because I don't want anybody to be embarrassed or anything, but one of them was a good friend of mine who to this day is still being affected by this case. Yeah. And the other gentleman, Bob, we'll just say his first name, actually, what did he say? This case kind of, did him in, and he retired.
Because in the beginning, he when we talked, I talked for almost 2 hours, and Bob basically said, if this is really real, he said, because Bob was a diehard, just like you guys. He had to have proof. So anyway, make a long story short. Guy. What's that?
No, Bob was a good man.
Yeah. So Bob said
he had been around a while. He knew his stuff. We talked to him many times.
Yeah.
So we kind of worked the case. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Bob didn't want to get involved. He was involved in like some of the really big cases. So Bob said, get me the names of people was here. I want to contact them. If this is real, he says, I work with Father Robert Bailey and I work with Bishop McKenna and other places. And Bob showed me he actually had a piece of cloth from Padre Pio, and he had a piece of St. Valentine from Father Bishop McKenna. So Bob never wanted to get involved. He wanted to just get us help and get out. So when the calls came back, Bob's like, this is real. So he brought in Father Robert Bailey, and Father Bailey had his rosaries taken on him and put back into his pocket in front of everybody.
Not to cut you off, but Father Bailey just reached out to me like 4 or 5 days ago.
Really?
Just out of the blue. I haven't spoken to him in many years also. It's weird the way things are happening again.
It is.
But yeah, he reached out to me through Messenger. And I'm gonna be getting together with him. Probably be discussing this case with him. But go ahead, Jay.
Yes, Father Bob's a great guy. Matter of fact, he joined the group, and I was surprised too because I haven't heard from him in years. It's like the gathering. All the OGs are coming back for some reason. So now, as Bob gets involved, he has his 2 assistants here. Now we leave for the day. Now, and if you know Bob's old school. Nothing really phases him. While he was here, one of his investigators said they didn't leave. They're upstairs in the attic. And he's like, no, they're gone. He looks at the one. He goes, no, he's gone. He goes, then who's upstairs? So then I don't want to mention her name because I don't want people attacking her. From what Bob said, she backs up. She gets scared. The guy gets away. So Bob's fearless. Bob, he goes to go upstairs. And what he felt like, it felt like a claw. He said, it felt like something went like this across his back. And Bob, I guess, apparently yelled out, according to what she said, yelled out. He made it over to the bathroom, and he's like, my back's on fire, my back's on fire. They lift up his shirt, and it looked like somebody gouged him.
Yeah.
And Bob's like, we got to do this. So when after Father barely left, it started to increase. So now here's where it gets even creepier. He goes up. He goes, I got one last thing in my possession. He goes, that's Bishop McKenna. He's one miracle away from being a saint.
Yeah.
So he calls up the bishop, and the bishop's like, Bob, I'm getting ready to retire. You know, the guy's a sweet guy, but so Bob said, there's children involved. Okay, one last time I'm coming up. So anyhow, make a long story short, because I know I don't. How long can we go, guys, for talking to 11 o'clock?
I think we have until 11, Heather, right?
Yep. Yeah, 11's the max.
Yeah.
So now, he says, he goes, get the snacks for the bishop. So Bob calls up. All right, he goes, are you guys home? He goes, I'm 15 minutes away from the bishop's house.
Yeah.
So I said, no, we're home. We took the day off. Elka's like, I got his salami, everything he wants. 5 minutes later, Bob calls up, right? He goes, you're not going to believe this. He goes, the bishop's secretary just called me. The bishop wrote on a note, he got struck with a mouth infection and lost his voice. He said to the secretary, tell the Yaples, I'm still coming up, but I don't want to announce it in case of what happened came from the house. So when the bishop does come up, like you said, he does the holy water. I'll let Elka tell that story because I thought they were going to have a fist fight. I thought the bishop and Elka were about to duke it out like a bunch of Irish, right? Because, but we'll tell that story after. So anyhow, he rebaptizes the baby, right? And then the bishop, we had some really good talks to the bishop, and that's when I realized, you know what, this stuff is nothing to play with. Because I asked the bishop, I said, so I thought it was like the movies. The priest comes in, that's and it goes.
That's TV. That's Hollywood. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and the bishop said, he said, you want to know the truth? He goes, the good guys don't always win. He goes, a lot of times the exorcist dies. He goes, they get severely hurt. He goes, so it's not like what you see on TV. He goes, this is for real. He goes, people die. So he said, here's what's going to happen. He goes, the first thing is what we want. We want what we did in the house, the exorcism and the rites, for this thing to leave. He goes, if it leaves, yay, we did our job.
Yeah.
But Jay, and he didn't want Elka and the girls around. He goes, but if it leaves and comes back, it's bringing friends. And you don't want that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just want to clarify that I've known where priests or exorcists, I should say, because Father Joe down the street can't do an exorcism. You need to be a trained exorcist, and it has to be sanctioned by the bishop. But I've never known a priest to be killed, but they have been attacked. You need to be in a state of grace, because if they're in a state of complete grace and they've had absolution and then they're fasting, then that they should be well protected. I know Bishop McKenna. I've been involved with him many years ago. He's been gone. God bless him. He's been gone for at least 10, 12 years. But because he was involved with the Warrens way back in the day and involved with exorcisms at the church. But
that's what. Yeah, right there. I want to show Heather. Heather, that's Bishop. We were the last case he did. Bob sent me that photo.
Yeah.
What a sweet guy.
Heather, do you have questions? I'm sorry. You were
ask questions, Heather, because
we do have a few questions real quick in the chat. Bob wanted he missed what year all of this started.
2006.
2006.
I wasn't involved. We got involved towards the end of 2007 because the girls are just about a year. I think.
Yeah, they were almost a year. Yeah. 2007
through 2009 or 10. We were involved for a few years.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is we were trying to get evidence. I remember Lorraine telling me we're on speakerphone in the kitchen, and she was saying, she's like, yeah, you need to get as much evidence you can so we can take it to the church to sanction, this. And we were having these experiences. Obviously, you want to document it, write it down, take photos, video, audio, all that stuff. and Bishop McKenna, he knew that this stuff existed. The local priests, yeah, they probably believed it, but they were scared because look, priests are people.
They were scared. Yeah.
They don't understand. I've had priests tell me they were scared. I've had priests tell me they don't believe in the devil. I'm not going to say I argued with them, but I've had cases where priests are going to meet me at the house and they wouldn't show up. They'd call at the last minute and said something came up. I can't make it. I actually had one priest in a home in Meriden, Connecticut, where he went similar to the priest you were just explaining before. He was in front of me. He was blessing this particular room of this home, and he didn't turn around and walk out. He backed away because he was right in front of me, and he went back in and he blessed the room again with the holy water. He turned around and he's like, "I'm sorry, Joe, I have to go." And he just basically bolted out of the house, and I could tell he was scared. Something happened to him in that moment, but only happened to him because I was right behind him. I didn't see, hear, smell anything. So whatever happened was meant for him to experience, and him alone at that time. So I'm just trying to speed up. A lot happened in this home. We're going back at least, 15 years? What's 2024? And then I believe that what we experienced was expelled, but it may have came back or other things came back, obviously, because I hadn't talked to you guys in some years. And from what I hear now, there's still activity in the home. I mean, Courtney just came in and was saying she saw something in her room again, which is in the attic area. You made that into a nice bedroom. So now I just want people to know that this was a real case, and the family is still having, I don't want to say residual effects, but if there's something there, and I talked to my friend Johnny Zaffis was there too.
Yeah, John was there.
A couple of weeks ago, John and I was discussing this. He said to say hello, by the way, and to give you his best.
Yeah, we like John.
But he told me, he said, Joe, he goes, make sure you tell him. He goes, I was in that house and he had personal experiences in the basement. Yeah. He had some personal experiences in the basement that he was discussing with me about hearing someone calling his name when he was in that tunnel area in the basement.
Yeah,
where
attic too.
Crawled in.
I remember that. I remember the film crew. The film crew. It got to the point where John started getting mad at him because he was crawling, even in the crawl spaces. Yeah, and he would hear. I mean, this is what we were told by the producers of that show. Is he'd get all the way down, and it's dark in that crawl space, and he would, at first it was like, Johnny, come here. So he thought that the camera people will call him out. So he would come out. Matter of fact, we have a picture somewhere of him standing in the attic. And he's like, what's going on? He says, you guys know I'm in there. And I said, John, we didn't call you. So this, I guess it happened so many times that the producers had to get the big producers involved. And they were standing in the attic. And John went back in. And John came out and he was upset. He goes, I told you guys to stop it, because he thought they were, kind of having some fun with him. Right. And the producers were like, John, we were here the whole time. Nobody called your name. John's like, someone's calling my name. And then other things happened to him in the house, like things fall off the shelves and things. I
just want people to know it wasn't just me and my colleagues that had experiences, but one of my colleagues to this day is, and this, I'm not going to mention any names, but he's still having issues because these things, they attack your life. They go after your finances. They go after your job. They go after your family. His children were having experiences in his own house. Okay. These things can attach to you. And they're not physical beings where they take up space. They're spirits. They're negative, evil spirits. And it's hard to explain. But Heather, I'm sorry. Do we have more questions? Because I'm going to get those questions in.
Yeah. And then remind me, because I have some things that I want you guys to try as you continue to investigate the house. just
All
on
right.
some things that I'm picking up.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even begun to investigate anything yet. I spent like a whole day up there with you guys a few weeks ago.
Just
Right.
hanging out, having
Just catching
pizza.
up, seeing the girls. I hadn't seen the girls since they were peanuts. They were
Right.
still
And
peanuts.
you haven't, what I'm finding interesting is you haven't talked to me about this case at all, just outside of that you've been there and that they're having activity and the activity's coming back.
Yeah, no,
And
we've
I
never
sent you
really
a text
gotten- matter of fact,
message.
a couple of things Jay mentioned, I wasn't even aware of myself. So
Right. But what's
That's a
interesting
lot,
is
yeah.
I sent you a text message about something I was picking up earlier in the show tonight
yes,
that then when you guys were talking, so when you read my text message, think about the section of the show that talks about the crib
okay,
and the black shadow coming out of the crib.
yeah, that
Oh wow.
that was the most. You know, when I showed Lorraine that video for the first time, I mean, I showed it to her on my computer. We were out at a lecture in Bridgeport, I remember, and she's sitting in the car, and I brought my laptop over, and Lorraine Warren watched it. She looked at me like a deer in headlights. She goes, "My God, honey, I've never seen anything like that before." Now, here's a woman that worked on all these cases, you know, Amityville and the Annabelle and the Harrisburg haunting and all these things that turned into the Conjuring movies. So that was something, you know. I said I wanted to show, you know, my teachers, my mentors, what I found. Of course, unfortunately, Ed had passed by then because this is about 2009, probably, because the tape was missing for a year. We caught it in 2008.
Yeah.
But what do we have
But
for
a lot of
questions?
tapes
But yeah.
got missing.
Yep.
A lot of stuff got missing. You're not
Oh,
the
yeah.
only one where kind of like we have 4 or 5 other groups where they say we can't
Bob's
find
evidence went missing too,
Bob's too.
and burnt up on him,
Oh,
melted.
there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's too much stuff for a 2-hour show. But
Right.
I remember you had a workman in the other side of the home, and his tools were missing, or your tools. And remember the guy that you told me he fled the house, and you said, "Hey, you got him on the phone." He said, "You left your stuff here." He goes, "I'm not coming back. Keep it."
Yeah, that was a
The guy
guy.
wouldn't
He
even
was
come back to get his tools.
and they were expensive. They weren't like cheap tools. They weren't like no Ryobis. They were Milwaukee's and
This
stuff.
is no
I
joke.
remember that.
I mean, this was no joke. This wasn't fraudulent. This wasn't fabricated in any way. You know, I've been doing this just about 40 years now, and what I'm telling you, it happened to us. It happened to John. You know,
Jay
this was
Dodd.
real. I don't know what's
Yep.
going on today yet,
Mhm.
but we'll get to that. Go ahead, Heather. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're running
No.
out of time.
That's okay. Courtney Tammy earlier said you guys must have been terrified. Did you ever leave the home and go spend time at a relative's during this period, or was that not possible because of the babies?
Good question, Tammy. Tammy, what happened was I'll tell you what happened. We tried to move out of our house 3 times, almost 4 times. Every time we tried to move out, something horrific happened. I'll go by this really fast, Tammy. The first time, I left the job I was at. I was working with another company. I had became friends with this attorney. His name was Michael Auger, and Mike didn't believe in ghosts, but he was going to get us out of the house. Make a long story short, as he's going through that, I got laid off because of the fall of '09. So Mike, I used to go to his Christmas parties every day. That's how close we were. So anyhow, make a long story short, we were supposed to refinance. We were supposed to get a big chunk of money out. We were going to leave the house, buy a new house. What happened was, as that happened, I lost my job. We couldn't get the money. We did refinance the house. I didn't go to Mike's birthday party. I mean, his Christmas party. I wish I did. What happened next? That was in 2010. My brother came over for Christmas. We were planning on moving out of the house that May. I'm speeding this up. My brother, he died mysteriously 3 weeks after my sister died. In the process of all this, I was going back to college. I get a phone call. And this is where it kind of hurts me. I get a phone call from an attorney, and he says, "Are you Jay and Elk?" I said, "Yeah." And I'm sorry, guys, this is really hard because I love this guy like a brother. I know it's hard. Okay, and the attorney said, "Are you Jay and Elk Yapo?" I said, "Yeah." He says, I'm handling the estate of Michael Auger. I'm like, "Get out of here." I said, Is Mike joking with you?" He goes, "No." He goes, "Jay." He goes, "Mike's dead." He passed away. He goes in October of '09. He was teaching softball up in Avon, Connecticut, and had a massive heart attack and died. That year, I lost, like I said, my brother. He died. They found him in Northampton, passed away. Like we said, this is not a joke. This case was no joke. They don't know how my brother died. I that's another story. I can't go into all the details,
Yeah.
but I tried pulling some connections to find out. I called Boston to talk to somebody, but anyhow, Elka's keep hitting me because I can't go into this detail. But
Yeah.
then Elka's dog died. My sister Charlene died all in 3 weeks. So that was the first time we tried to move out. The second time we tried to move out, I was going to transfer to South Carolina with my company. I got in a really good company, and I got into a severe car accident that left me disabled. I'm only touching the surface. The third time we were 2 weeks away from leaving. I was going to rent a house in Gloucester, Virginia, and 2 weeks away. And the real estate company called up and said, "Jay, I don't want to make this phone call. The people who owned the house decided not to rent the house, so we had to stay." But these, I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg because there's a lot of horror in between what happened. A lot of deaths, like that guy I told you about, Joe, the one that was helping us.
Mhm.
They found dead. A lot of deaths. We started realizing that this entity was like a death dealer. People started dying around us.
Well, there were a lot of deaths, not only in the house but in the neighborhood. There was a guy
Yeah.
that murdered those two people, and then came back to your house, and that's the guy that killed himself in the living room, right?
Yeah, we
Because we
found out he
believe
was a
the
local
bloodstain is
gangster.
still in the wood. We
We
believe
had
that's what it
also,
is.
and also going back to Tammy, the thing is too, we didn't have a lot of family, and um, and I have to say, I have one sister living here, and he has a couple cousins, and so, but it is sometimes also hard to tell someone we have paranormal activity, where sometimes you think kind of like, oh, so for us to
Guys,
say,
as she's talking, I'm showing you all the deaths of the people that died in the house.
and crash your house because we think we have
It's a lot of
someone
people.
living in our house. So there was another thing where we got stuck. And then, but we also got told from Bob to say, you cannot give in. You have to say this is your house. Because if you don't kind of like stay over that, then
It's all death
they
certificates.
kind of like win. So trying kind of like, but going back to that with, and I don't think I don't know if I told you that, but last week, I think it was last Thursday, um, Jay was helping Kenzie to hang up a shelf in her bedroom. So, I mean, for the last 2 years, we're playing musical around because always something happened in the room. So she sleeps on the couch for a while, and
Mhm.
she moved from the attic in the little room into where it was the nursery actually at the beginning. And you gave her that cross.
Yeah,
We still got that
it's
cross up
still
there,
there. I
Joe.
know. I
You
saw
saw
it
it.
a couple weeks ago when I was there.
Hanging in that room. It
Leave
only
that.
comes
Yeah, leave
down.
that there.
Yeah, we only
Leave that
take it
there.
down when we
Paint.
painted the room.
Yeah.
But last week that was really odd. I was watching TV and they were upstairs hanging the shelf and they had to move that cross.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, I hear him going off, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. He was just kind of like loud. So I looked, and then all of a sudden, I hear that awful, loud, deep growl. Um, Zoe, our
I didn't. You
shepherd,
didn't. You
was
didn't tell me
actually
that. I didn't know that.
the shepherd was over here
Yeah.
because Courtney had her boyfriend here, and Zoe really doesn't like any people in the house where she doesn't know. So we
Yeah.
had her actually on the renter side. So, and I only had Charlie, who's a tiny, he cannot make that noise. So I'm looking around and I'm kind of like, okay. So I'm going up the stairs because I thought they were fighting.
And we
he
weren't. I
actually
was I
he
was
was
chasing
actually
something
going to
out.
put the cross back,
Yeah.
and he was doing a prayer and kind of like it was loud, kind of like going saying a
Something came
prayer.
in, and
And I'm kind
I
of like,
was
what are
just
you
trying to get. I was
doing?
getting
Yeah.
I
rid
said
of
it
it.
was weird. I was sitting downstairs watching TV, and then all of a sudden I hear that deep growl right next to me, and then I hear
Was it
him
the same
upstairs
growl
going
that we
off.
heard way back when?
Yeah,
Hmm.
the first time ever.
Okay, I
I
didn't
didn't.
know that.
I didn't. I
Right.
mean, like I said, I mean, we have little things, kind of like moving stuff, or we hear some noises, or someone calls your
Yeah.
name, but never any animal things anymore. So I thought it was really weird.
Well,
Kind
there's a
of.
couple of things I want to mention though. And Tammy, if you can hear me, I want to talk to you about this. If there's a way we can talk about the case, because Tammy is part of our team, and
Oh, nice.
she's been helping me with it remotely. She lives out in Oklahoma, but Mackenzie, because I want to get her in here.
Yeah, I got to run to the
No, because
bathroom real quick.
this is
I'm so
important
sorry.
because
You guys blocking my way. I'm ready to jump over you. And back in my day, I
the
used to
move,
be able to jump over you back in
the
my.
room where this video footage was
I'm just gonna unplug this
filmed
real quick. Capiche?
was the baby's room. The twins were
Okay.
in the same room,
You
and
guys can talk. I'll be right back.
that room now is Mackenzie's bedroom.
Look at the dog.
And I want Mackenzie to share. Mackenzie, if you want to share, you were telling me that you don't sleep in your room sometimes because you're scared, right?
Yeah, I get scared, so I go from either my bed for maybe like a couple months, and then I'll
Yeah.
switch to the couch, and then when I get a little bit weird down there, then I go back up. So it's like a cycle, because it's like whatever is like, I can't see it unless like I was in the dining room, like where the living
Yeah.
room is in the dining room. And I did see something there, but in my room I just get this presence. I just feel it. I don't feel
So
like
it's
I'm
more of a
going.
feeling than a sighting.
Basically in my room, yeah, and then in the living room I do see something like in the corner of like the dining room, so that's why I get scared and then I go
Right.
back up.
So the activity, so everybody knows, the activity is all over the house.
Yes.
Now, the family has let the paranormal investigators stay in the renter side because the family has not been able to keep a renter. What's the longest someone stayed there, guys? 6 months, a
No,
year?
switch back. Please don't sit down. I need to sit
So,
there.
do you
The
know?
longest person that came in was the very first, the very first person he came in. But the weird part about it, like I said, this thing's like a death dealer. What happened was when we finally got it fixed up and got it ready to rent,
Yeah.
we're supposed to have been three kids moving in, a young boy, his buddies, they were college kids, and I kind of liked it because you had noise, and I grew, I kind of like people having some fun, and that's when the back door was open. But one of his friends was supposed to get married. She was going to move in. They were
Yeah.
engaged. She never put once. She came in once, and I can't blame the house, but within that 2 weeks of her being here, she flipped out. And I think she had like a nervous breakdown. Now, he left, but his parents came and knocked on her door and said, I want my son out of the contract. Keep his portion of the security deposit. He just wants out. And I'm like, we were like, yeah, no problem. Because we're nice people. We're like, yeah, no problem. So he wanted out. So everybody left except for this one guy. He got another roommate, and they started fighting. And I thought I was gonna have to call the police because they were talking about shooting each other, which I thought was really weird, right? So after that, he kicked that guy out. He said he was going to go on vacation, and he asked me to watch the house. Well, I thought somebody, I think I told you this, Joe.
Yeah, you did.
I thought he had somebody coming into the house and
Yeah,
checking
because
on
you would
us.
hear the commotion. Yeah.
I could hear people going up my stairs, walls, and I would be outside, 'cause I'm always outside gardening. I would see lights turn on, lights turn off. So when he came back, I was like, hey, Dom, I didn't want to mention his name, but I'll call him Dom. I said, hey, Dom, I said, did you have anybody here watching the house? He goes, no, why? What's going on? Now he's got really nervous. He goes, why? He goes, what did Jay tell me? I said, no. I said, it was just a figure of speech. I said,
You
I
don't
was
want to
just
freak him
trying
out.
to make small talk, and he's like, no, there's nobody in the house. He goes, if there was anybody in the house, he goes, let me know. I said, no. So he ended up getting his father moved in. Now they brought parakeets, and you guys know what parakeets are usually used for, right? Besides pets, they're like an early warning system. Like they in the coal mines, they put the parakeets in the coal mines where if there's poison gas, the birds would die. But they're
Sure,
also
kill the bird.
yeah. So
I'm
he
sure the
went.
Audubon Society have something to say about that.
So he went through not one set of parakeets, but four different birds, and he would his father would find his parakeets dead, so he kept buying them and they kept dying. So anyhow, when they left, they weren't supposed to be religious, right? But the last thing the father did is he had an old family Bible about this thick, right?
Yeah.
And he held it against his chest. I thought it was really strange. And he says, is everything good? I said, yeah. I said, everything's good. We gave him back his deposit. The very last thing, when he walked out, he held that Bible against his chest and he was gone.
Yeah.
After that, we could not keep renters. They would move in for 6 months. They'd be gone. They'd break the contract. Some would stay the year. Some people would literally move out but keep this place as storage until their contract was up so they could get their security deposit back. And other people had weird things, really weird things happen to them, but their minds started getting played with. So we went through a lot.
I know, because I know your frustration way back when you were trying to get a renter in there because you were depending on the rental income for your mortgage.
Yeah.
Now, I know that not many people have been on the family side of the house. That's where we actually captured the evidence that I have.
Yeah.
But we did have experiences on the renter side as well, up in the attic that's now Elka's shop, sewing room or whatever. But you reminded me about the Bible because Elka has, I guess it was your grandmother's German Bible. Because
Right
I
there.
tell this
We're going to
story.
show it to you guys.
I tell this story when I lecture. Do you have it right there? Okay. So I have photos of that in my presentation. The Bible was on top of the closet in the baby's room when they were babies. They were about a year old or so.
Just pieces.
Yeah. So I get a call, and Jay, I know I was the one that you usually called because I live closer. I'm about 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
I remember the night you called, and you guys were terrified, and I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Can you get up here?" So I said, "Yeah." So what had happened was the Bible was up on the top of the baby's shelf. Now I had to stand on my tippy toes to reach it.
It was in the closet.
Up in the closet rather. So
I'm listening, Joe.
I'm going to tell the story, but you guys correct me if I get it wrong. But you had found the Bible face down.
I got a soda. My back is going on here.
All right, not too much.
I'm listening, buddy.
So the Bible was face down on the floor, and the pages that you just saw were torn out of the Bible and strewn all over the room. They were actually in the pieces in the crib with the girls.
Yeah.
It was almost like he was mocking us, saying, F you, I'm not leaving.
Yeah, but from goal, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember asking Elka, I said, do you want me to remove this from the home? And she says, no, I'd feel better if it's still here. So we took the pieces, and it's great that you still have it because this is 17 years ago. Yeah. And we put it in that same Ziploc bag. Is it the same bag?
Same bag, Joe.
Ziploc bag, and we put it
still
back
in the closet.
Right. So now, what my point here is, the girls were only a year old or so. There's no way that they could have crawled out of their cribs, climbed up there.
No.
So what did it?
So now that was the same day, Joe.
Natural experiences in this house. And from my friends out there that are listening, like Tammy, you know what I'm talking about. And that were unexplained. The changing table. Jay, you said you walked in the baby's room one day. The girls had their binkies in their mouths and they were pointing at the changing table, and it was standing up on end, or was it?
It was levitating.
It was levitating.
Solid maple. The thing was like 100, 75 to 100 pounds levitating. we could never find out why it was all over the room, because we thought the babies were like Popeye the Sailor Man. You know, they were, because that thing is
Yeah.
heavy. And Elka came down, and I remember that day. Like, I mean, I remember some of the stuff like happened. She says, I can't get them to go to take a nap. And I said, well, we're gonna play good cop, bad cop. I'm gonna go up there, and it's hard to be hard to be me, because I love my kids. Like, I'll be a father. So I go up there, and I'm gonna be like, okay, go to bed, right? And I go up there, and I'm like, oh. And Courtney's leaning on, she had a day bed, her fingers in her mouth, and she's like, Papa, spooky's here. Mackenzie's like, and then it just drops.
Yep.
Now, when you see that, you know, your mind just snaps. You're like, what the heck? So I grabbed the girls, ran down the stairs. Elka's like, well, I thought you were going to be the bad guy. I said, I just watched this baby changing diaper station levitate into the ground. She's like, are you? And she didn't believe me, but then you saw it before too.
Well, I know that before I came up a couple of weeks ago, I don't even know if I told you this, but I had two friends of mine. I think Tammy might have been one of them. I don't remember. But another very gifted psychic that you guys know, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And they both called me because they knew I was going, and they said, be careful.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, okay, you know. But when I was there, because one of them said that they felt like something was lying in wait. Now, lying in wait for who? Me? I don't know. But I got to be honest with everybody. When I was there, what, 12 hours? You guys wanted to get rid of me, and I'm like, I'm staying.
No, we had fun. That was a good
didn't want me
time.
to leave.
It was like having an old family member back, Joe.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. But seriously, all I felt was love and warmth. I didn't feel anything.
No.
And that doesn't mean there wasn't anything there. It just was probably hiding.
That's what it does.
So, yeah, I mean, you guys have told me over the last couple of weeks of some other activity that has happened, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of it. But this is something that, you know, if it's anything like we dealt with back there, I'm going to need help.
I hope not. I pray to God.
I'm going to need help. Unfortunately, my mentors are gone now. Bishop McKenna's gone now.
Yeah.
I've got
Bob's
a whole team of people in the foundation behind me. I don't really have anybody in Connecticut, but, you know, we're going to do what we can. But, you know, I want you guys to let, you know, girls, Mackenzie and tell Courtney to write this stuff down, because I was a little taken aback by Courtney coming in before. And
I had no idea.
They feel like they had some activity tonight, just tonight. Maybe they knew we were going to be talking about this case, but there is so much we could do. We could do 2 shows on this easily. I mean,
easy.
We're almost out of time, but Heather, what do we got? We got to
get through these questions quick because we're almost done.
Oh yeah, ask questions, please. Pick my brain.
I just want
Tammy asked earlier, was the neighbor that lost their life, was that in the unit next door to your home, or was it like on the renter side, is what she wants to know.
Which neighbor? We had a lot of neighbors die.
The one that was shot.
No, there was a next house.
The guy that killed himself, though.
No,
is that what you
no,
mean?
he got shot in the chest. That was That was a kid I helped grow up. That I watched that kid grow up from he was 8 years old. I went to go. Well, make a long story short, I went to take the kids to go visit a guy I know who owns a pizza place in Massachusetts. When we came back, John went outside, sat on his step. He just turned 18. Usually the girls would run over to say, hey, John, but something was weird. They were psychic. They didn't come over. These guys walked by. They brushed up. They put hoods on them. And I got up to the staircase with the family. They turned around and you heard boom. And I'm like, it's fireworks. The fireworks. Everything kicked in. I know what the gunshot was. They put a .40 caliber into John's chest and shot him point blank. And we all watched John fall over dead.
And what year was that, Jay? When was that?
2014.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I didn't hear about it, because I wasn't around.
The weird thing about that, though, Tammy, was I mean, there's a big story behind that. That happened Labor Day weekend. I was a pallbearer and everything. We just got over that. went to the Big E. If you guys know what the Big E is in West Springfield,
Mhm.
ran into a lady who wanted to sell me this $2,000 water vacuum. It was I believe it was on my brother's birthday. I got a phone call, just right after John died, from my half sister, and said I got bad news. I'm like, I said, Dad died, and she goes, no, my other sister, they found her dead, and that was in 2014. So it's like when it hits, you can't stop it. It's like comes in waves, and
There's a lot of tragedy around in and around the house in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
What the gentleman years ago hung himself in the garage that used to be in
the
your
guy,
backyard.
yeah,
Yeah.
the family's son, they had 6 children. They all died but one. Bobby hung himself in a garage. 3 months prior, their son, who was a Glastonbury police officer, goes down to the locker room, pulls out his service revolver and shoots himself in the head. Started in 1973, where their youngest son goes to, which is now Six Flags, goes on a ride, goes into a mysterious seizure and dies. In 1985 or 6, their only daughter goes out with her boyfriend and commits suicide. They gas themselves. And then Tommy blows his brains out with the cop. And then Bobby hangs himself.
And these are all people that lived in the house at the time.
At the time, his father bought the house in 1963.
Yeah.
And they sold it in 2001.
So, I mean, could it be because of the house? Maybe. I mean, it's possible, obviously, but we don't know.
A lot of coincidences, yeah.
Heather, do we have more questions?
Yep.
Train.
Nicole asked, have you guys ever heard the spirits say your name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you?
I also had, Nicole, I came home from work one day. I was sitting in my car. I had my laptop open. I was finishing up some work. Elka came home with the girls. They walked by my car, rolled down the window. I said, I got to finish up a couple reports. I'll be in. All of a sudden, I looked up. I saw what looked like my daughter, Courtney. She had her hood on her jacket, walk right by me. I turned and I went back because I was getting a message. And I looked, so I called Elk. I said, did Courtney go to Mariana's house? She goes, no, she's in the house with me. I said, no. I just watched Courtney walk by me. I said, I physically watched her walk by me. She goes, Jay, she hands Courtney a phone. She goes, hi, Papa. Something mimicked my daughter and walked right by me. I couldn't see her face because she had her hood on, walked by me, and I thought she went to my neighbor's, and I didn't want to leave. And Elka said she came inside.
And even John, my friend John Zaffis, said that we talked about a little earlier that his name was being called. He thought it was one of the producers or one of the crew or family members, and it wasn't. So, yeah, that's interesting. What else we got, Heather?
And then
things up.
Oh yeah, then it's going to be a series of questions now that I'm going to throw out there as fast as I can.
Well, I'm not, Heather. We got
a new viewer. I want to thank him for sharing out. He shared out to all his groups, and we're up to 91 viewers tonight, the most we've ever had on this show.
Oh, wow.
So thank you, Dion. He also is known as the Godfather on Parallax TV. And some of his theories that he's going to share that I'm going to post here in a minute are kind of what I've been thinking throughout this whole show. So, and that's why I want to talk to Joe after the show. But I've learned houses can turn bad. It has nothing to do with the house, but the energy within. Would you agree that every story, every house has a story to tell?
Who's this addressed to?
Well, this
everybody.
Definitely has a history. If the house was built in 1771, that's 253 years. But to hear the family, because the family's done a lot of research at the town hall.
Yeah. So I'll show you a quick picture, guys. You guys are getting really awesome stuff here. So to go with Don Corleone, right? Don, I love that name. Don Corleone. So what we found out was in 1846, this gentleman here, Henry Grant. We don't show these photos, guys, so people that come over to rent. This is for you guys only. This is Henry Graham Thompson. Now, this was his obituary. We dug up. Now, we believe it was the Thompson's family home. His grandfather built the house. Now, as soon as they sell it in 1846, because they were a very wealthy family, he sells the house to a gentleman by the name of Horace Abbey. And this is where we see the death starts happening. Horace Abbey moves in, and guess what happens? He dies. But in the beginning, there's all these 22s, and it's a weird thing. It's always 11 and 22. So he sells the house. I don't have the paper in front of me, guys. I'll tell you really quick. So anyhow, he buys the house on May 11th, 1846. Horace Abbey, he dies. February 22nd, 1849. They sell the house. Caroline Abbey sells it to that guy, Shabu Parsons, whose son gets run over by the thing on the 22nd of September, 1851. William Tate then buys it, and they sell it to William Lydell because in 1856, William Tate dies. So the house gets sold again to William Lydell. Now, William Lydell, he has it from 1856 to 1865, where him and his wife die in a house 3-4 months apart. We never knew her name in beginning because they were like aristocrats. They always called her Mrs. William Lydell till we found the gravestone. But then after that, after they died, Marion Arnott has the house, guys, and she's the only one in 256 years died of natural causes. They said she died in her house in 1900 from bronchial pneumonia. At both times, her daughters come back to visit the house to check on it because they moved out. Each one of them, we were told by Colleen that each one who came back to visit fell down these stairs. One died instantly. One broke her arm, smashed her cranial, and died at Hartford Hospital. Their son, this is what's creepy, because when you talk about Don Corleone, their son in 1920s, he sells the house to that guy who we told you who was a gangster guy who murdered the people. He sells the house. He never has a chance to spend the money. Shortly after that, we found out a few months after, I have to dig up the records, he gets hit by a car. Gets in his legs. He suffers tremendously. Colleen found out, then dies shortly after that.
There's a lot of death and tragedy. A lot.
Yeah, every month. And this is what we got here, guys. A lot of this paperwork I show you are death records that Colleen pulled up. I don't have them all. I have a lot of them. It's really creepy. When you hear, like, when I piece the story together, like I told you, Joe, even the gangster, he had a son. The gangster's son grew up and had a son. And the same year that kid went to Six Flags, right?
Yeah.
His son, 22 years old, 1973. He's married. He's going to college. He's got the world. He goes out to the Congamon Lakes, takes the gas pipe, and kills himself. And so now the guy lost his father, who was a gangster at 8 years old.
Yeah.
His son dies. Now, I talked to the guy. He was in his 90s. He summons me through Colleen. And I had over a 2-hour conversation. That's how I pieced a lot about this gangster. That's why I tell a story, because I talked to his son. And he died the same year my dad died. My dad died January 1st, 2020. A couple of weeks after the guy dies, Charles Camparetto Jr. dies on his birthday, or on his father's birthday, something weird.
And what's kind of weird too, in those all these years, 250 no babies were ever conceived in this house. We could not do in any research. Either the family moved in with children or
adults.
Kind of like no.
Yeah. I mean, it's a mystery. I mean, it could have nothing to do with the house. This could all be just coincidences, but if you believe in coincidences, but there's definitely been a lot of tragedy and death surrounding the home and the area in general, not just that home. It's a very old area of Enfield. But your house is one of the oldest, I think, right?
In this area. What's weird is the historical area. If you look on the maps on our website, if you know the names of the people, right, you'll understand that Thompsonville, right, was built as the carpet mill. But this house was here in 1771. And it's just like Salem's Lot. the town built up around it,
Yeah.
around his house, and
Okay.
you see the names changing, and you see the house still here, and you see it's weird. And you see all these houses pop up around it, and the house is still here. The historical area is about 2 miles down the road. Now, here's the nothing's funny about this house. When we contacted the historical society, and this blows people's minds, and I think you were involved in this one time, Joe. We called up and we wanted to get information on his house. They said, "Well, yeah, what's the name of the house? Sorry, we can't help you." So this went on. So it went on with all the TV shows. In 2020, I get an email, and I can't say, from a mysterious stranger, and it said the reason why you could not find anything on your house and a lot of information was destroyed is because the guy's father, who was the gangster, Charles Jr., was also a volunteer and board of directors of the Enfield Historical Society.
Hmm.
He was the one that was keeping everybody away. And when he died, a lot of that information vanished about the house.
Well, I tell you, I may have news for you guys soon, because I've got one of our researchers is actually a historian, and she's digging into this for me, because this may be the research that you have coupled with what I'm going to have coming is going to be interesting.
I'm
Heather,
excited,
what else do you
Joe.
have?
Yeah, that would be great because we contacted Connecticut, right? We went to
We
Let's
tried
see what you can
everything.
come up with.
and everyone
She's
says,
really good,
"Oh, we're
though.
looking into it," and then you never hear anything back. So that
Well,
would be great.
yeah, she's Jesse's really good. She's looking into it for me. She lives in Connecticut. She's on our team. So I'm going to see what I can find. I'll share that with you. Heather, what else?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of more questions,
know
but
we're
we're over in time. So I'm only going to bring up one more. And then actually, if we can get you guys back on the show, not our next show, but on May 15th, we can carry on from where we left off. If you guys want to come back May 15th.
If everybody wants that, because there's so much.
Yeah, there's so
and
much
I'm going to
to
write down the
story.
questions
It's
that we haven't
fascinating.
gotten to.
So
Just because we still have so many more questions that I'd love to get
Yes.
to, but there's one that I wanted to bring up because
Sure.
I have, like I mentioned earlier, I have my own theories about what's going in the house, and I don't follow the typical Catholic views or Catholic ways of investigating. And I'm not going to bring them up on the air until I do a little bit more research and talk to Joe to get a little bit more information about the house.
Hey, look,
But
I can use all the help I can get right now.
This was one of the things that I thought of because I have experience in closing portals in the past. But could this be a case where the child, such as the baby with the changing table, had special abilities or has special abilities, and without knowing, accidentally opened a portal in the home?
I will say this, because I said this way back when, and Jay and Elka, you may remember me saying this. I believe that Courtney has abilities.
Yes, she
because
does have abilities.
She, more so than Mackenzie, at least back then, because Mackenzie, you're only a baby then.
Yeah.
But
That's the
Courtney
Green
seemed to
Beret.
be the center of the attention of whether she could see this thing. And I don't know if Mackenzie could or not, but I remember in the video that we have, she is the one that is awake. Mackenzie's sound asleep, but she's awake. She's the one that's really agitated. And now I asked you guys this a couple weeks ago when she rose up and said, "Sit down." You heard it.
Yeah, that was
You
creepy.
said that the girls weren't talking then.
No.
And in perfect clarity, she said, "Sit down." Now, was that her saying that? Or did she have something possessing her that was saying that? We still don't know.
We don't know.
No.
However, the evidence
That was
doesn't
pretty
lie.
creepy.
This
I
is
saw it the first time, actually.
This is the
that
most
day.
compelling evidence that I have ever seen and that we have ever captured. And I use it as to educate people. I don't have all the answers. I probably never will. No one has all the answers.
Nobody.
But it's just weird that you guys contacted me out of the blue a few months ago, and you said you had been thinking about me a lot, and I'm like, yeah, I get that a lot. But we're I just want to make sure that the girls are comfortable. It bothers me that Mackenzie's not comfortable in her own room, which again was the room where this video footage was caught. It was the nursery way back when. The house is very tiny, Jay. Remember, I was standing I was standing in the hallway upstairs, right outside your room and the girl Mackenzie's room.
Yeah.
I'm just standing there, and both of my elbows literally were touching the walls. It was a very tiny house. I guess people were smaller back in the 1700s.
Well, what had happened was
That's my
this
thought.
is what's creepy. It was built as a single family house, and
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to when I was doing all the renovation, I got to see the bones of the house. Like making the bones house with a solid wood. Matter of fact, I gave you a gift. Remember
I
that,
have it.
Joe?
It's in my bag over here.
Yeah.
It's an old. They didn't use nails back then. This was a
gave
wood
him one of the
dowel that they
spikes.
used to keep the boards together, and you could
Yeah.
see them in the basement. You could tell just by
Yeah.
looking at the beams in the basement that this place.
And
is
the hand, so it goes back to 70 years. So now,
Yeah.
what was I talking about? The house.
Heather, how far can we go over?
Well,
Sorry,
we
Jay,
can continue. We can continue going over on Passport to the Paranormal and Parapost Network, but we will have to stop airing on Parallax TV.
I mean,
so
we should probably
anyone,
cut it short, but
yeah,
do we
because
still- how many
anyone,
people
and
we
that's where
still have
most of
watching?
our
Just
viewers are
start
coming
with
from
the-
tonight. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay. Finish your thought. Finish your
So
thought.
I forgot what I was talking about. We're
Go.
talking about the beams in the house and being
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
So, I know what I'm saying. So the house was originally built as a single family house, right? Now, think about this. 1771, this house would have been 2,500 square foot house. That would have been a big house back then. So even today, a lot of houses are 1,500 square feet. And after World War II, they were making them like 1,000 square feet. So what happened, I believe that William Lydell, who was a board of selectmen, his daughter came over from Scotland, Marion. And I think what they did, and I still don't understand why, they did a massive renovation. And when they split the house in two, right, Joe? When you go outside and you look at the window, or even if you look at the pictures of the house, that middle window is where the house is. So if you got the window like this, Heather, the wall's right here. So when I first came in, I could literally go up into the closet where the staircase is, where it goes up to the attic, take my hand and reach around to the other side. So I had to seal that off. So with all that renovation, all that money they spent to split the house in two, they never took that window out. That's the original window frame. And that's where I found those spikes that I gave you, Joe. They were all inside the walls. So I collected them as I was
Hold
doing
on to those because those were handmade. Somebody handmade those.
Imagine that somebody in 1700s took those things and with a knife, and you were the first. Well, me and you were the first ones that held it since that guy that made them and left them in there. So that's pretty wild. But so when the house got split, each side of the house was over 1,000 square feet, but it makes it look tiny because somebody in 2001 ripped everything down. So that's why down here it's like an open floor plan. But then I left the original, Heather. I left the original door hardware upstairs. So I made downstairs contemporary. But when you go upstairs, it has the old thumbnail latches to open the doors that open and slide. So we still got that. And
Any other questions, Heather, that you want to?
No, I've cleared them all out.
You want to stop it here?
Yeah, I did take photos of them on my phone, so I'll make sure to write them down. So those of you who are watching tonight, tune in 4 weeks on May 15th. We'll have you guys back, and we'll continue where we left off. And
we won't start from the beginning.
Right.
No, we'll start from the beginning when the babies were born in 1946. No.
Yeah, it's like,
and maybe by then Joe will have time to talk to me about the case, and I can help him with my theories on it.
Yeah, like I said, I can use all the help I can get. I'm a lone soldier right now. And
it's just I hate that I live so far away because I would love. I mean,
there's so much more. I wish I could transport everything because even when we had a call, even when Jay Dodd and Rev Farley came in, they got destroyed. Well, Rev, I don't know what happened to him, but Jay Dodd was a healthy guy, and he had a series of heart attacks, and he'll tell you some stories. But if you look up Greg Balkin's radio show or Ghost Box Radio, I think you might have been on there, Joe, right?
Greg's a friend.
I told Greg, I said, give me 3 nights, and I'll get you a special guest. He goes, you got it. On the third night, I had Jay Dodd come in, and he told a brief story on what happened to him. It was pretty terrifying.
Well, you know, I will add on to that Jay's right. There is a number of investigators that I know personally that refuse to go back in that house.
Mm.
They were so affected by that home. And Jay and Elko, you know, one person I'm talking about.
Yeah,
a good
I
friend.
feel bad for him.
Well, who's still having problems some 16, 17 years later that he attributes to the home. And that is possible. We may never be able to prove it, but the dangers out there, what he did was something that you should never do, and that's challenge it. He challenged it, and it accepted by his own free will. He challenged it, and now to this day, he's still having problems. And these people, and Jay's one of them, I think.
Jay Dodd,
right? Will refuse to come back to the home. You know, so this is no joke. This is a very, very bad case. It's actually one of the worst ones I've had back then. I've had a couple of other ones, but you know, it's no joke. And you know, people that don't understand what real investigating is about, this is what it is, and it affects people. I won't lie to you. I have health problems today that I am convinced are partially, at least, due to the work that I've been doing for 40 years.
Yeah.
I have ailments that, you know, I remember Ed had his first heart attack during the Maurice Theriault exorcism, you know. So this can affect you. I'm not Superman. I'm not impervious to this. I've got a lot of health issues. But I'm not totally convinced that, or I am convinced that, at least partially, because of the work that I've been doing all these years. So, you know, people that want to get into this work, you know, great, you know, but you got to be careful. And that's why I said these two friends of mine told me, they knew I was going back to your house. They said, be careful, you know, and I'm as careful as I can be, you know, but I'm not going to be afraid. I'm never afraid to go anywhere, but I'm smart about it.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, I'm not trying to rank on any of these urban explorers. I don't even call them paranormal investigators, because they're not. But these people that go out and they'll go into an abandoned building or an alleged haunted building, and now they're verbalizing, or they're using some form of divination, or they're having an EVP session, and they're asking aloud questions to the unknown. And that's very dangerous in my beliefs. And I know, Heather, you may believe otherwise in your religious beliefs. But when you're asking questions to the unknown by your own free will, you are establishing or attempting to establish a relationship. And that's where the door gets opened, you know. So,
well, even if you tell them to stop, that's where the door opens, you know, even if it's not a question.
Right. And even if they don't think they're doing any harm, they could be.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you can be opening a door, and this is why it boggles the mind when I watch some of these things, and I'm like, you don't know what you're doing, because I know people that have done it. I know people today that are still suffering because of it. And I'll get off my soapbox. Anybody that's watching that's in this field, I need them to be careful. Take it from an old guy now that's been doing this a long time. This is no joke. Yeah, I know it's fun. Let's go out to a cemetery or whatever, and with a Ouija board. No, you know, I'm telling you, you're just playing with fire.
No, that's like playing with Russian roulette, you know.
I try to say something each one of our shows, because, you know, yes, we have a good time and we laugh and have fun, but at the end of the day, this is serious stuff, and it's not for everybody. And it's got to be a calling. It's got to be a vocation. It's not an occupation. So, God bless everybody.
Good thing that you said that, because it's dangerous. People don't understand it. We don't know what's out there. You know, there's a world we can't see, and we don't know what's out there, and they can see us. And That's what I tell people when they want to come in to play with a Ouija board or something. I say no Ouija boards here. And they said, why? I said, well, my analogy is like this. Imagine being in a dark room and you got Pee Wee Herman on one side and Mike Tyson on the other side, and you think you're communicating with Pee Wee Herman, and the next thing you know, you get knocked out, and you're like, what happened? Well, you got Mike Tyson, and to me that's like the same. There's like the paranormal. You think you might be talking to a little boy and asking questions, and all of a sudden the other thing is waiting, and if that other thing can get through, and when you get knocked out, you're like, well, why did little Billy do this to me? It wasn't Billy, you know.
I can almost guarantee you, if you use, let's say a Ouija board, because that seems to be the most common device. I can guarantee you that if you feel you've made contact, it's not your dead grandmother.
No.
It may say it is because it wants to draw you in and gain your trust and gain your sympathy. It's not. And if you continue to do that, again, it's all about free will and intention. That's when you can get into trouble. I'm trying to give you pearls of wisdom here, folks.
Well, and you know my feelings on that, Joe. If you're gonna,
I'll shut up.
If you're not gonna allow Ouija boards, then I wouldn't. I mean, if you're against it for the reason of them opening doors, I wouldn't also allow then EVP sessions in the home either.
You're absolutely right. An EVP session or a seance or whatever you call it, to me, is no different than using a Ouija board. You just don't have.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't need the board to conjure. And Lorraine used to say this. She'd give, when they would give tours of the museum, and especially at stop at Annabelle, and say, don't be afraid, standing here taking pictures, looking at Annabelle. Nothing's going to jump on or attach to you. You need to conjure. You know, you need to, you know, use some form of divination or black magic or whatever.
Divination, yeah.
You know, and that's extremely dangerous. And there may be people out there that say, no, it's not. I do it all the time. Okay, you're entitled to your beliefs. We can still be friends, but
yeah,
I've lived this stuff for 40 years, and I'm telling you right now, this is real, and you need to be careful. You know, your house is no joke. Your house is no joke. I don't know what may be there today. I haven't investigated it in many, many years, but I know what I experienced back then with you people, and that's what I talk about.
Yep.
And I thank you for allowing me.
The opposing views is why our one show is popular, the Tuiji or not Tuiji. Presentation.
But no, Heather, seriously, when we talk about this stuff, you open my eyes to possibilities, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's a good point. Yeah. I always keep an open mind. We may not agree, but we're still friends, aren't we?
Yep. I'm still going to get you to do one live with me once.
But that's you know what, that's what's great about having friends, and that's what's great about having a debate, because you learn more. You might start out with one theory and the other person has a theory, but as you're talking, you open up other doors that you didn't know or possibilities. Like, yeah, you know what? That's what's great about talking and having friends, you know.
Good point. You know, we'll end it there. I know we have to get off.
I'm gonna
get talking, guys. I could talk all night. You know, I love people.
So can I.
No problem. Thank you, everybody.
We can talk.
So can I, but you know, that's why I do the intro, because Joe takes over the rest of the show.
I don't mean to do that. Just I'm passionate.
You know why? That's why Elka's sitting next. That's why she sits next to me. Because
I'm gonna go play. I'm gonna go play with Annabelle.
When she wants me to stop talking, right, Heather? She hits me in the leg. Jay, I'm like, that's how I know it's not my cue to shut up.
Mackenzie, get working on my hoodie, will you?
Because if I don't, she'll start choking me next. I'm like, okay.
Mackenzie's half asleep.
Yeah, she's sitting there. I think she came back with McDonald's.
All right.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get you guys back. But thank you, everybody who is watching tonight. Thank you to the new viewers.
Thank you for having us.
I'm super excited. We are up to 364 viewers because Dion, the Godfather, he shared out. He said to many groups. So I truly appreciate that. So those of you who are new watching, make sure you follow our show, Passport to the Paranormal. Joe Franke and I co-host every other week on Wednesday nights. And we, in addition to airing on our Facebook page, we also air live on Parapost Network and Parallax TV 1. And then within 24 to 48 hours, I get the show uploaded to my Facebook, or not my Facebook, my YouTube channel, which is at Heather Leigh PhD, where you can catch this show and all the other shows I managed to co-host in my busy life. So you can catch all those shows there as well. Some exciting news next week, or 2 weeks from tonight. Joe and I are doing an Ask Us Anything show. Have your questions ready. People have already sent in some questions, and we are doing something interesting. If anyone wants to be a guest host and take the hot seat, or not the hot seat, the seat, and put Joe and I in the hot seat and ask us questions, send us an email, and we will pick who we are going to have interview us later this month, before the end of the month, and let everybody know. So that would be fun and interesting.
I can't guarantee I'll know the answer, but
Mackenzie would be good at interrogation.
I'll wing it.
Yep, we'll make sure we do that. And then you guys will come back on May 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern to finish up where we left off. And there was one other thing I wanted to share before we left. Joe, do you want to bring up your event again?
Yeah.
I did share the link for the tickets in the comments.
The Yapos have been gracious enough to host me at the home. We're going to be doing I'm going to be doing a lecture. It's going to go from about 6 p.m. to midnight, the witching hour. I'm going to be speaking. I was going to say for maybe 2 hours, but it could be more. And I'm going to be presenting my entire lecture based on my life in the paranormal, my history with Ed and Lorraine, and what I've learned through the years. But the focal story will be the home. So you're going to be actually in the home where all this stuff happened, and that's what I'm going to be discussing. What happened back in 2007, 8, and 2009, and then you guys can share some stories of what's happening now, because that'll be news to me as well. So
it'll be fun.
You can contact the Yapos for tickets and help support their cause.
And we always have snacks here. We're probably gonna have maybe some.
Yeah, I won't be coming if there's no donuts. So
we'll have donuts, we'll munchkins. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Heather. Thanks. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
God bless
Thank
everybody.
you, guys.
Thank you for
Have a good
staying up.
night.
Have a good night, guys.
Ladies, Jay, Heather, I love you all.
Yeah, we love you too, Joe.
Bye.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks. God bless everyone.
You
See
too.
you guys.
God bless,
Bye.
Joe. All right.
Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Heather.